jobs and inflation, things like that tend to dominate a lot of the conversation, when it comes to politics. And so, and all of us have mixed opinions about that. All of us have our own feelings about what the state of the economy is. In fact, I'd like to ask you all this. I'd be curious to know what you all think. How many of you all feel that the economy is strong right now? How many of you feel like it's very strong? Give me a yes if you feel like it's strong. Give me a no if you feel like it's not very strong. I'd be curious to see your responses on that. And I got something in my eye. Sheesh. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Um, and the reason I want to ask you all this is because there tends to be a disconnect between what the state of the economy looks like to working class people versus what it looks like to people that are either wealth builders or in the upper class. And all of you are wealth builders, but you may not be upper class yet. By being a wealth builder, though, you're headed toward the upper class. Wealth builder pretty much is a pretty simple idea to me. It means that you're either a saver or you are seeking to acquire real estate, or you're buying stock on a regular basis, and you have a financial surplus, meaning that you don't spend your entire paycheck. Your goal is not to live paycheck to paycheck. Your goal is to have a premium, have a surplus that allows you to build wealth. Remember, income doesn't mean very much. Income is just a flash in the pan sort of moment. Income is definitely not the same as wealth. Income is simply the opportunity to have wealth. So if you think about income, you can think about income like sex, right? Sex can happen, pretty quickly. It can happen one time. If there's somebody you slept with 25 years ago, and there's no evidence that you slept together, you could just go through the rest of your life denying that it happened, because the only two people that know that it happened are you and that other person. But what if you had a baby? What if somebody got pregnant? Well, now you can't deny that you had sex, because there's like some 25-year-old walking around saying, I'm evidence that this event took place. So, to some extent, you can think of wealth and income similar to pregnancy and sex, where income doesn't mean a whole lot. It means something in the moment, but it goes away very quickly. And income is pretty much merely an opportunity to have wealth. Income is not the same as wealth. Do you get what I'm saying? I know it's an awkward analogy, but give me a yes if you follow that analogy. I think it's a great analogy. I've never used it before. I like analogies. Analogies help us understand things by understanding foreign concepts, by connecting them to concepts that we've understood our whole lives. Well, a lot of us know the difference between having sex and having a baby. And we know that. Here's another thing that's really interesting, too. If you think about this, most people that have sex don't actually have a child. Like, imagine if every single time somebody had sex, there was a baby born. Like, literally, imagine that. Imagine every single time you had sex. Some of y'all had sex, maybe not with maybe not with that many people, but maybe you've probably maybe had sex thousands of times in your life. Some of y'all may have had sex with thousands of people. I'm not judging. Hopefully you didn't. If you did, you need to go get checked out, because that's not good for you. That's not healthy. But let's say you had sex with a few people, and you've had sex with a few people at least hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times throughout your life. Imagine if every single time you had sex, a baby was born. You would, like these, you ever see those stories about those people that go and like some young dude who gives to the sperm bank, and he just does that every week, like to make rent money. And then years later, he's got like 150 kids or something, right? Like, so imagine that, right? Well, that to me is the visual I want you to understand, in terms of the difference between a reality that you live where all you do is make income, versus another reality where some percentage of the time when you get income, some percentage of that income goes toward creating wealth, right? Because some people go through life and they work really, really hard. They make a lot of money, and there's absolutely nothing to show for it. Literally 25 years later, um, they literally 25 years later, they will say, gosh, I'm so tired, I've worked so hard, I'm so stressed out, I put in so many thousands of hours into this company and into this job, because like they gave me a black job a long time ago, and I worked my butt off. I was the hardest working person on my black job. And you say, well, what evidence do you have to show that you worked this hard? And they'll say, well, I don't have anything. I don't have any assets, I don't have any real estate, I don't have any stock. And you say, well, gosh, so what do you have to do now? Well, I got to keep on working, because literally I'm feeding my life by literally feeding into the moment. If there's ever a moment or two where I cannot work, if I have to go 3 weeks without working, without a job, I'll be financially devastated. I'll be broke. I'll be stuck. And I don't know if that's necessarily a healthy way to live. I think a better way to live might be where you say, okay, I'm 25 years old. I'm going to work my butt off, and 10% of the income that I earn is going to go toward wealth accumulation. Just 10%, not 30%, not 50%. If you did that, then you'd be very rich at a very early age. But let's say it's just 10%. Well, a person who does that, by the time they get about 45 or 50, they could probably retire, especially if they know basic things like selling stock options. If you, let's say you had 1,000 shares of Coinbase stock, you could literally make ten to $15,000 a month just selling options on your Coinbase stock. You guys that have seen me in options class. You've seen me do this. Okay, so really, what I want you to kind of think about is I want you to process this and sort of ask yourself when you're listening to your favorite politician, whoever that may be, Kamala, Trump, or somebody else. I want you to really think about this when they talk to us extensively about black jobs and they say we're doing something for the black community because we're going to give everybody black jobs. Trump used the term black jobs, but y'all know what black jobs are. They're jobs occupied by black people, right? And maybe if Kamala gets elected, maybe president of the United States will be a black job, because she has Jamaican heritage, right? She's not African American. That is a difference though. That does matter, but she's still black on that side of her family because Jamaicans are black people, most of them. And so I kind of think that maybe instead of just talking about black jobs, I would love to hear more conversations about black wealth. Instead of just talking about black jobs, I'd like to hear words like black owned. Black jobs is not an exciting word to me. We've had black jobs since slavery. I like to think about things like black families and black children and black communities and black institutions and just put the word black in front of things like we have the Black Business School, right? That's a black institution. That's something where I work very, very hard on this every day, knowing that at some point I'm going to die. And my belief and my hope is that because I'm leaving a percentage of my wealth to the Black Business School, that I will have something to show for all this work that I put in every single day. See, building the Black Business School is a little bit different from me just pouring into a black job. I had a good black job. I had a really nice black job. When I was at Syracuse, I made $115,000 a year. And that was a lot of money in 2001. It's still a lot of money now, but back then it was even more money. So I had a nice black job, but that black job was not contributing to a black legacy. That black job, that was going to make Syracuse great. It wasn't going to make the legacy of Boyce Watkins great. It wasn't going to do much for the black community, because Syracuse has their own agenda and it's not always consistent with a black agenda. So I kind of really want you to just think about this. Um, and especially when you're engaging in politics, I don't tell anybody who to vote for. I have to keep repeating this because there are people that don't really want black people to have the same liberties as it pertains to politics that everyone else gets. Like I can't just say, hey, vote for whoever you want. People will say, well, that's bad because it's supposed to tell everybody to go vote for the Democrat. And I'd say I'm not doing that. I tell people to vote for whoever you are happy with. So if you like Kamala, go vote for Kamala. If you like Trump, go vote for Trump. If you don't like either one of them, don't vote for either one of them. Do what you want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that message. I hope that message is okay for me to share. And I will say this though, that when you talk about the black economics, which I think it literally is the number one driver of black liberties and freedoms in this country. Part of the reason you don't have liberty and freedom is because most black people work for a white person, which means white people will always have more power because you will never have more power than your boss, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's just a fact. That's just the reality. And I hate saying it like that, but that's true. Okay. So you really are in a real life Game of Thrones, and you really don't want to lose this game due to a lack of understanding or a lack of preparation or a lack of economic consciousness. Now, before I move on, I want to remind everybody later on today, I'm going to have a conversation with a sister named Asada. I don't even have her last name in front of me, but I know that she works with Freddie Taylor from Urban Intellectuals, and they've created something called the Black Math Geniuses Program, where what we've done is we've taken our Black Business School for Children called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow, and we're going to merge some of that with their Black Math Genius Program, because we educate our own kids. I don't need Mr. Charlie to educate my kids. Like we got this. We're smart enough to do this. And so anyway, she's going to come in and talk about that a little bit later on today. about 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll send you all a text to let you all know when that's happening. So if you're not on the text list, get on the text list. And also you get invited to our private Zoom where we do money in the morning every morning. So you can just text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948, and I'll send you a link when it's time to meet with Asada. That's going to be a little bit later on today. And that's important because I really think that the opportunity for Black people, the opportunity that we have as African Americans, and there are a lot of you that are not, maybe not African Americans. I know that we have love from all around the world, and I'm not unincluding you at all. But I will say that the big move we can make that will change everything is to deeply commit ourselves to making sure our kids are economically advanced at an early age. This is very easy to do. My doctorate's in finance, you guys know this. And one of the things that I realized is I said, if we can take advanced financial concepts and just chop them up into baby food, like make it so that a child at the age of 7 can understand these concepts, then we can actually get a massive head start on everyone else. This is a battle plan that I know will make a big difference. So, for example, in the Black Business School, we have what you call the KID model, which stands for knowledge, investment, and discipline. Knowledge, investment, and discipline means that if you give your child economic knowledge at an early age, then they're going to be in great shape, far better than other kids. Number two, if you give them investment, you have to give them capital that they can use to apply this knowledge, right? You don't want to be a smart person who knows how to run a great company but can't afford to even start one, because then they'll end up running a great company for somebody else instead of being an economic parent. They will become an economic babysitter. An economic babysitter is where someone sees that you're smart and you're broke. That's very dangerous to be smart and broke, because if you're smart and you're broke, then that means someone's going to hire you and they're going to use your financial desperation to extract ideas from you, all these possibilities from you that are going to be used to build their legacy, build their wealth. In fact, actually, the other day on Fly Nubian Money, which is a platform we help design for women. It has hundreds of thousands of followers. Feel free to check the ladies out. They go on there every single day. They were actually talking about, they were speculating. Again, I'm not making an accusation one way or the other, but they were speculating on the whole portal that Tyler Perry has, where he says, "Hey, if you have a great idea and you want us to make your script into a movie, put your script in here. We'll take a look and we'll let you know if we want to make a movie from it, right?" And I'm not saying that he's doing this. And this is not. And I did. Tyler called me years ago, and we only talked one time. He was a very nice guy. He also arranged for me to do a tour. Me and my daughter were in town, and I reached out to him and I said, "I'd like to do a tour of your studio." And he wasn't available, but he went out of his way to get his number two in command to give us a 2 hour tour of the studio. And let me just tell you, one, I was impressed with his graciousness. He's a decent human being in that way. Number two, that studio was amazing. I mean, I was really, I loved what he's doing. I love the fact that he has, I don't watch Medea movies, I ain't gonna lie, but I loved the way he showed respect for all these great black actors and actresses that don't get the same love out of Hollywood, right? He was giving love. And so Tyler and I overlap a lot. Like if you listen to a lot of his speeches, he gets the idea of black ownership, black power, and black wealth. That black wealth is black power. However, one, and I have to talk about this too, and just again, because I got to be honest, the ladies on Fly Nubian Money were kind of speculating, like, okay, when they're asking you to submit your script and your best ideas to see if they want to make a movie out of that, are they doing that because they really intend on sort of legitimately evaluating what you're doing and making you a legitimate partner in the process? Or are they just looking for ideas that they then want to pursue and make into their own? I'm not saying this is the case one way or the other, but I know that there are quite a few people who feel that, wait a minute, hey, that movie you just made, that's a lot like the script I sent you last year. Like, but you told me that you didn't want to do it, but this movie is a lot like my script. And now here's the thing. I don't know if that's going on with Tyler or not, but I know that this does happen with a lot of major companies. You have companies like Apple that will do that. Apple's been accused of having meetings with tech companies, getting all their secrets, and then saying, we don't want to buy you now, and then creating their own product. Amazon's been accused of that. Amazon's been accused of the exact same thing. So it's really to the point where a lot of companies say, if you get invited to a meeting where Amazon's thinking about acquiring you, don't even go, don't even participate. And so what is happening there, in my view, is that remember that economic power comes with a type of ability to colonize, right? It comes with a type of dominance that people who are that have wealth are able to utilize to manage people who are financially desperate. Do you understand? So you go in the world, you send your child out in the world, and they got a ton of brains, but ain't got no capital. So they're not really able to operate on a level where they're thinking about building $1 billion company. They're thinking about how do I just pay my rent this week? So what a company does, where they're well capitalized, is they come along and they say, okay, show up, bring your best ideas. We will own them all, and we'll make sure you can pay your rent. So in exchange for you giving up all your economic possibilities, they're giving you enough money to survive. So the KID model that we use in the Black Business School in our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program is built around this idea to say that if you give your child knowledge, just know knowledge without capital is a dangerous thing. Now, because if you don't have a capital base to support the application of that knowledge, then it kind of ends up going to waste. So you give them knowledge, then you give them investment. You give them investment. You make sure they walk out into the world with capital in their pocket so they can apply that knowledge and make it real. So the $5 a day plan, for example, which is 100% free at blackwealthmasterplan.com, that's blackwealthmasterplan.com, shows you how if you start early, if you don't waste time, right? We waste money, but the worst thing we waste is not our money. The worst thing we waste is our time, because you got a newborn baby, you got 20 years, approximately 25 years, really, to build a nest egg for that child. If you were to simply invest $5 a day, or the amount of your car note, just the amount that you waste on your car note, if you invested the amount that some of y'all spend on your car note for that child consistently in the S&P 500, your child, by the time they're 25, they would have about two or $300,000, because some of y'all got big car notes. And so just think about this. This is really important. So now they've got knowledge and investment, and the last thing they just need is discipline. Discipline is the ability to avoid being distracted from the things that keep us from reaching our potential, avoid being sucked into a culture that is not healthy, that is not economically beneficial, economically healthy. Discipline means the ability to set a goal and follow through on the goal. So you learn a lot of these things actually from sports, believe it or not. I learned most of the things that I did that made me successful in life, and I guess I'm decently successful. I'm not bragging. I guess I did okay. Most of the things I learned that made me successful or great at anything in life actually came out of sports. Sports is amazing because sports shows you how to work as a team. It shows you how to sacrifice. It shows you how to be consistent. It shows you how to set a goal, right? So if you take all that and you understand what life is just a big game. Life is just a big competition. And so if you are a competitor in sports, then you can be a competitor in life. So that little black boy you have that's the superstar of the basketball team, but can't but was making D's and F's on his report card, that's a problem, because what that all that means is that he's turning off his brain when he gets off that basketball court. And I can tell you that that's not healthy, and that's not appropriate, and that shouldn't be acceptable. If you're going to be great on the field, be great off the field. If you're going to be great at one thing, be great at everything. Greatness should be a commitment. It's just a philosophy. It's how you live life, period. Okay. So anyway, somebody was mentioning a lot of the URLs. Well, here's a URL you can use that has a lot of stuff on there. drboyceoffers.com, drboyceoffers.com. And we have stuff up there for a lot of stuff. If you want to join my options program, Prime, where we generate income selling stock options, you can do that there. Dr. Boyce offers. Also, people like Aisha Verzi, who's a great supporter of the Black Business School, she is up there, and she actually is somebody. She put her phone numbers there. You can call Aisha and get support and help on whatever you're trying to do financially, particularly in areas of insurance and investment vehicles, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff up there, drboyceoffers.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. All right. So let me talk about another quick thing that hit my brain earlier. Um I was thinking about this. Did anybody here give me a yes or no if you heard about that crazy shutdown of when Microsoft had their little issue with CrowdStrike? Did anybody hear about that? Where Microsoft and CrowdStrike basically went down at the same time because CrowdStrike issued an update that was complete crap, and it completely just annihilated like all these systems all throughout the world. Like 8.5 million machines all went down because CrowdStrike. I don't know if they let the summer intern issue the update. I don't know what happened, but it just made them both look terrible. I know CrowdStrike stock probably took a hit for this. It was bad. It was their Boeing moment. It was their soul plane moment. They just looked really ridiculous, and because you're sitting there thinking, wow, this really messed things up. And I was actually getting on a flight when I was in Europe. I did a tour of Europe this past week, and I mentioned that to you guys yesterday. It was amazing that my daughter planned it all. She was an art major at Columbia, so she enjoys artistic places. So we went to Basel and Brussels, which has the most beautiful town square I've ever seen in my life. Luxembourg, Dubrovnik, where they shot Game of Thrones, and then also we ended in Amsterdam, which was interesting. I mentioned to you all yesterday about the beautiful black lady I saw just standing in the window in her drawers, like in her lingerie, and I was like, why is this lady standing here in the window with no clothes on? And then I realized I looked up, I saw a red light, and I said, oh my God, I think we're in the red light district, and I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen a person just standing there like that. It was crazy. And but here's the thing though, the red light district is not in Amsterdam. It's not like off like in a whole nother area. I thought it would be like in this whole other side of town. No, it's like right when you're walking in the town square and you're with your family and your friends, and it's like, oh, just go off into this corner, go make a right here, and you're immediately in it. Right. So when we walked, we had to turn around because we had kids. We had the babies. We're like, oh no, cover the baby's eyes. They want to see all that. And I mentioned to y'all yesterday that my thought too was like, I wonder how that feels. I wonder how that feels to stand in a window half naked, knowing that any stranger with any disease, any nasty person, any sick human being can just pay money and get access to something that I believe money should not be able to buy. I don't judge people for making choices that they want to make. I really don't. You can do whatever you want, be as freaky as you want to be. But I just think that that's so interesting to me because I think that the human body and reproductive organs are kind of sacred. That's what creates life, and you're just giving this to somebody because they had a couple $100 in their pocket. I'm not a fan of that, So I'm, that brings in daddy mode. Like I started thinking, like, where's your father at? Like, why didn't your father give you some wealth? Why didn't he make a plan for you? If somebody makes a plan for you, you don't have to do that, but unless you want to, unless you just enjoy that. Which again, I'm not judging, but most people I've seen who do that kind of thing don't really want to do it. They do it because they have to, right? And this is yet another example that I was mentioning earlier about how people that are economically prepared sometimes people and companies that are economically strong are able to what's the word exploit those who are not prepared. Now Kevin Brooks says you judge all the time. Stop masking. Oh, Kevin, I hope Kevin ain't no hater. Don't come in here hating, Kevin. I hope Kevin's not no hater. But yeah, but you know what? Some things I think should be judged, but at the same time, I think that you have the right to do whatever you want to do, and I think that there is no there is there. I would say at the end of the day that I don't have a right to judge you, and you don't have a right to judge me, right? And that's what freedom is. Freedom means that you can do whatever you want. And so when it comes to the election, for example, I tell you all the time, do what you want to do. Just don't tell me what to do. I never responded well to that. I don't like that. But anyway, going back to that, so we did the whole European thing this past week, and we're doing Egypt next week. So we do go to Africa and stuff, and so the CrowdStrike thing was interesting because I was actually getting on a plane with KLM, which is connected to Delta, and Delta is I think that they're deeply connected. So I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get back because they had to literally handwrite the boarding passes because the system had gone down. Now, what's interesting though is that this made me think about business from a diversification standpoint because here's what is interesting about that CrowdStrike Delta situation. They mentioned that 8.5 million computers went down, right? That 8.5 million went down, and that's literally less than 10% of the total number of computers that are impacted by Microsoft that have Microsoft Windows on it. So Microsoft is everywhere. Microsoft is pretty just ubiquitous, I guess. It's just everywhere. Um, and then there's like this idea where I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, so you're telling me that because CrowdStrike issued the wrong update, they had one guy probably that hit the button that sent the wrong file or something, whatever it was. that the global transportation systems went down, medical systems went down, all these things went down because of this one little issue, this one little glitch, this one little problem. That's an issue. That's a big issue. When you don't have a plan, I'm like, because I remember thinking, what's your plan B? Your plan B is that you're going to start writing boarding passes out by hand at the airport. Your plan B is that Delta has to ground all of its flights all around the world and lose billions of dollars. I mean, you know how many lawsuits are going to come out of this? That's not a healthy way to do business. That's not very smart at all. And then I thought about it and I said, but if you think about it, a lot of us live our lives that way. A lot of us live our lives without a plan B. I mean, think about it. A lot of us, for example, think about it. If you are a single parent living paycheck to paycheck, and let's say you have no savings, no investments, no life insurance, then you have no plan B. Your plan is that everything's going to work out so that and you don't think about plan B until you hit that other state of the world where there is no plan B and everything just collapses. I remember hearing celebrities, I think Eddie Murphy said it one time, and I didn't agree with it, where he said, or maybe it was either Eddie or Will Smith or something, where they said, you don't give yourself a plan B because then you have to succeed. You have to find a way to be successful. And I didn't like that at all because even though I love Will Smith, for example, I didn't, and I think Will said that. I don't agree with that because Will Smith became very successful partly because he happened to know people who helped him to get into the industry. Will Smith is not successful just because he has so much talent, and he has a lot of it. Or Eddie Murphy isn't successful just because he had a lot of talent. There are lots of funny black men in the hood. I think there's a ton of black men and women who are just as funny, just as capable, who could have, really benefited from the same opportunity. They got selected. Somebody picked them, right? And they got an opportunity and they ran with it and became the great legends that they are. But for every one Eddie Murphy, there's 10,000 Eddie Murphys who tried and gave everything and didn't have a plan B, who ended up having their whole lives fall apart because they didn't have anything to fall back on. I think that it's okay to have something to fall back on. I don't think that having a plan B means that you're not preparing for your plan A. That's like saying that anybody who gets health insurance is planning to get sick. No, you're not planning to get sick. You're hoping for the best, but you're preparing for the worst. You can have health insurance and still go to the gym, still eat right. You can have health insurance and still take care of your body. You can have health insurance and still go to the doctor, right? One is not connected to the other. Those are two different realities. So basically, you're preparing you're hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst. Nothing wrong with that. If you get married and you get a prenup, I've heard people say that a prenup means that you're planning to get a divorce. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Most intelligent people I know don't get married expecting to get divorced, but they know that divorce happens. And they're basically saying in the prenup, hey, if it does happen, I want there to be a peaceful separation. I don't want it to be something that destroys both of us. I don't want this to be a painful breakup because I care about you right now, and I know that even if we're not in love anymore, I don't want us to be in a situation that is beneath both of us. The way you break up says as much about you as the way you love each other. Really, it does. It really does. Like that's why you don't really hear me speak negatively about anyone I've ever had a breakup with because when I talk about them, I'm talking about myself. When I talk about her, I'm talking about my own choices. I'm talking about me. Right. So really, I think that just kind of understanding that sometimes things don't work out and really knowing how to peacefully separate is critically important, not just as a wellness strategy, but also as a wealth strategy. Do you know how many billions of dollars get sucked up in divorce court because people go in court acting a fool? People lose their mind. They want to fight over every little thing and get petty as hell. And next thing you know, the only people walking away with money are the lawyers. You suffer, he suffers, the kids suffer. The lawyers are happy. The lawyers want you to fight. Do you know how many times when people die and they don't make a plan, they don't have a plan B for their lives, like they don't prepare for the transition to heaven? Do you know how many estate planning companies and estate planning law firms make millions, even billions of dollars from families that either A, don't have a plan and or B, fight each other over what little scraps are left? I talked to an estate planning attorney, Kelly Baker, the other day. I'm gonna bring her into class, And she told me about a story about a time where she saw that someone died and they had about I want to say two or three hundred thousand dollars worth of property, and the kids were fighting so much that by the time it was said and done, they all got a check for $3,000. There was like five kids. Each of them got a check for $3,000. The rest of the money went to the lawyers. So understanding these things like just so I'm kind of merging two concepts here. I'm merging the idea of having a plan B, and then I'm merging the idea of in that plan B sort of preparing for potential separations or potential changes in the state of the world is a critically important part of wealth building strategies. And if you don't do it properly, then it can be explosive and very damaging to your economics. I don't know if anybody ever else watches a show called House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is it's part of the Game of Thrones series, and all House of the Dragon is about is a very strong family. They were called the Targaryens, and they had these dragons, and they had all this wealth. And because they were fighting each other so much, and so much infighting and destroying each other in the Civil War, they lost all their power. So if you and I are part of the same team, and I'm fighting you and you're fighting me, then the only that I lose and you lose, and someone else is going to win. Someone else wins when you and I are fighting because if you and I could have found a way to work together, we could have been able to remain strong and successful. So I just really think that, and I know I kind of blended, I kind of mashed some concepts together, right? Number one is the plan B. Number two is conflict resolution. And number three is kind of preparing for the fact that the world changes. I think all these things are kind of connected. It means like, so for example, if I love you, then I prepare for the day that one day I may not love you as much as I do right now. I want to be ready for that. And my love for you means that I'm going to put something in place such that even when I'm not in my right mind anymore and I'm not thinking about you in the way that I did before, I'm going to show my love for you by saying that even if I'm mad at you and can't stand you, I'm still going to give you $100,000 or whatever it is, right? I'm still going to make sure you're good because that's the kind of man that I want to be. At least that's how I thought about my prenup with my wife. My prenup with my wife was basically one where I said, okay, Boyce, it's easy for you to love her. Loving somebody's easy. Being attracted to somebody is very easy. That's very natural. It's easy for you to love her, but it's really hard for you to care about her because loving her and caring about her are two different things. Because there may come a time where I may not love her anymore. But if I care about her, I'm going to want her to be okay, even if I don't benefit from that. I can love her easily when she's my woman and she's right next to me and she's treating me well. Yeah, I love you, baby. Right? That's easy to do. But caring about her means like, okay, what happens if she decides that she is moving on and she's in another situation with another man? And we're not together anymore. Well, I still want her to be okay. I still want her to be happy. I still want her to be safe. I don't want bad things to happen to her. So I wanted my prenup to kind of reflect that. Like, look, hey, I'm showing you that I'm committed here. You and the family, this is my responsibility, and I want to try to cover this in as much of a 360 context as I possibly can. And again, I know it probably sounds weird, and I don't think most people think of it that way. I think most people think of it kind of differently, and I get that. That's fine. But in my view, preparing your plan Bs is a critically important part of being successful, especially as a black person, because a lot of black people get killed or not killed, but taken out financially and otherwise because they don't have a plan B. So let's go to the simple plan B. Let's talk about that black job you have. So you get this black job and you're not using the black job to build black wealth. Black wealth is graduation. Black job is like that's you're still in school. You're still earning your way to graduation, but you graduate when you get to the point where your black job converts to black wealth. Just like when sex converts into reproduction, that's a different type of sex, right? It's not just about the pleasure, it's also about the longevity because when you reproduce and create a child, that child's going to be around for 80, 90 years. So that's a much greater impact on the world than you simply, getting your freak on with somebody. So the black job is you spinning your wheels, busting your butt, working hard so they can give you enough money just so you can pay your bills. But the black job converts to black wealth when you take a percentage of that income and you put that into something that's going to build wealth long term. Why is that important? Well, it's because that black wealth is part of your plan B. You see, similar, if you think about that CrowdStrike Microsoft thing, what bothered me about that was it was fascinating to me that they were so dependent on Microsoft, and Microsoft had let itself become so dependent on CrowdStrike that one mistake by CrowdStrike has not destroyed, but really significantly harmed the brand of Microsoft. Now, a lot of people are saying, gosh, we don't know if we can trust Microsoft the way we used to because you shut down our entire system, right? But then even the companies that have the systems that got shut down, like Delta, I'm looking at them and thinking, what was your plan B? You didn't have a plan B in place in case Microsoft didn't work out. And all this kind of reflects similar to I think the way a lot of us live our lives. I would ask a question if you're talking about your family wealth and you're talking about economic security, ask yourself that basic question: what are my plan Bs in place? Right. So a good plan B, economically speaking, might be the following. It might mean it goes wide and deep. And what do I mean by that? Well, by wide, when they talk about things like multiple streams of income, that's incredibly important for a black person to have. So, in addition to that black job that they can take away from you at any moment, you should try your best to work on ways to develop other streams of income, two, three, four, five streams of income, such that in the event that that stream of income gets shut down for whatever reason, you've got other ways to pay your bills outside of that. A good way to have multiple streams of income is from family. Building family builds multiple streams of income very naturally. If I'm married to you and then my sibling is, let's say my siblings living with me and my grown kids are also in the same house and we're all generating income, let's say we all got our little black jobs. Well, then now we've got four streams of income in that house, such that if one stream of income gets shut down, one of us loses our job, we're not going to lose this house. We're not going to lose our place to live. This is why the building of family and the preservation of family is one of the most economically devastating skills that they took away from you. When they destroyed your families, they destroyed $10 trillion worth of black wealth. $10 trillion worth of wealth was destroyed when they destroyed your families because now everybody's scrambling, trying to do it all by themselves. And that reduces your financial security, which makes you very vulnerable to racist capitalist systems that are designed to exploit and control you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. I know I'm saying a lot today, but I hope you're following what I'm saying here. Okay. So having multiple streams of income is the first line of defense when it comes to your economic self-defense. Economic self-defense is the most important thing for black people to consider. It's more important than Democrat, Republican stuff. The economic self-defense is everything because if they control your economics, they control your life. If they any person who can take away your ability to eat, who can shut off your income stream, pretty much can tell you what to do. They just like that poor lady that was sitting in Amsterdam, standing in the window in her lingerie. Like I don't know if she wanted to be there or not, but I bet you that she probably didn't have as much financial security as she'd like to have. I doubt that she was a millionaire. Okay, so that's the first thing. Multiple streams of income, critical, essential, should be taught in childhood, should be taught damn near at birth. Second piece of that line of defense is so that's wide, right? Multiple streams of income goes wide. Going deep means that when I got that black job and I'm making that income, no matter what is required, I take some percentage of that income and turn that into wealth. I just, for some percentage of the time, every dollar I make in income, 10 cents of that goes toward savings or investment or the acquisition of real estate. Because these assets that are behind me, that stock that I own, that savings that I have, that business that I'm building, that real estate I've acquired, that gives you financial security. That's what protects you. That allows you to have collateral that you can then use and go to the bank and find some way to go get a loan because you're having a tough time economically. In economics, we call those economic shocks. Economic shocks are basically when something happens that you don't really expect and it kind of messes up your money. Black people are the most vulnerable in this country when it comes to economic shocks. They're always shocking your system. Financial trauma is very, very real, it's very, very big. That's why we created the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. My wife runs that. She's a therapist and she's very good at what she does. She's also certified in trauma. And she said trauma is the hidden disease that is affecting the Black community on a very high level. And it's not being diagnosed and it's not being treated, and it's causing all kinds of chaos, all kinds of havoc. The reason you can't you can't get along with your relatives is probably connected to trauma. The reason your relationships don't work out is probably connected to trauma. The reason you make certain financial decisions that are not beneficial to you is probably connected to trauma. But nobody wants to hear me because nobody wants to talk about this kind of thing. They'd rather talk about goofy stuff. Okay. But for those that are serious, if you are serious about success and self-preservation and strength and power, if you're serious, then you definitely will go deal with the trauma. You will learn what the healing looks like. What does that look like? How do I heal? How do I identify other people who are trying to heal? How do I use that healing to allow me to do things that are economically and personally beneficial to me, like build wealth? I can go get money with you now because we're good at conflict resolution and we're both good people that know how to get along with each other and we want the best for each other. I can marry you now because you're not crazy and I'm not crazy. Two crazy people can't stay married. Come on now. All you're going to do is hate each other, destroy each other's lives, and jack up the children. That's what you're going to do. Two crazy people getting married. You're going to have some great sex and some horrible fights. That's what you're going to have. It's going to be effing and effing, fighting and effing, right? You don't know what it's going to be. That's all it is. That's what crazy people do in relationships. A lot of y'all have had crazy relationships before. I did too. I'm not going to lie, right? But crazy relationships are not stable. You can't build stable institutions on sheer insanity and just ridiculous, outrageous, outlandish behavior. You can't. That's a type of immaturity as well. That when you mix that trauma with immaturity, you get like shows like Love and Hip Hop, where people get together long enough just to get pregnant and then they break up right before the baby's born, right? Right? Because everybody wants to just wild out and go crazy all the time. And they never sat down with a therapist who said, that's not necessary. Maybe instead of talking over the other person, you can listen to them. Maybe instead of blowing a gasket and saying something you're going to regret, you can do breathing exercises to calm your crazy ass down for a minute. Maybe instead of acting immediately, you can think about it for a couple of days. Maybe you can learn something called empathy. Maybe empathy will help you, where you can really try to understand where the other person's coming from and then show them that you understand. And then maybe they'll listen to you a little bit more. Maybe you can have the discipline to realize that when you form a family, that how you feel and what you want to do in the moment cannot be the deciding factor in every decision that you make. You have to be able to consider other people. You have to have enough consciousness to be able to operate in a multivariate framework. What does that mean? Multivariate means that there's not one variable that shapes what you do next. It's multiple variables. So instead of me just saying, I'm going to punch my wife in the face because she made me mad and I'm just pissed off right now. Instead of doing that, I say, wait a minute, if I hit my wife, she's going to be upset with me. It's going to disrupt my family. The kids are going to see this. They're not going to like this. That's not the best version of me. I'm going to get locked up, right? Those are multiple variables. I'm considering all the variables instead of just acting in the moment. And the reason that this conversation can be difficult is because I believe that there is a strategic effort in our society to keep the Black community in a very childlike state, to keep your consciousness at a low level where you're operating maybe on the fear frequency or the trauma frequency or on the instant gratification frequency, so that you keep making crazy decisions and horrible mistakes. And then you just say, well, it's because of the white man or whatever, or it's because I'm Black. I'm in jail because I'm Black. Well, you haven't considered all the other reasons that you might be in jail. You really think that that's the only thing that happened to you or the only problem that you have in your life? So I would just say overall, when you're talking about building wealth, I think that operating in a way where you are where you try to be thoughtful, right? Everybody has a brain. I find that using your brain as much as possible goes a very long way. Some of our brains are better than others. Some of us are not as smart as we'd like to be, but I can just tell you there's a big difference between using 10% of your brain and 80%. And I learned that actually when I was when I studied mathematics or with University of Kentucky. And I think I've told you all about this, but I think it really taught me a lot. We would get a math problem on Monday that was really hard to do. I would look at the problem and I have no idea how to solve it, right? No idea. But I'd be under pressure because you have to solve this problem by next Monday. You have to turn in your homework. And I would be like, crap, what am I going to do? So what you would do with this problem is you would just stare at it and just look at it. You would research stuff, you would talk to people, then you go to sleep and you dream about it, and then you get up and you call your friend and talk to him about it, and then you look in books and you find similar problems. And what would happen is slowly but surely throughout the week, I would actually learn more and more and more about this problem. And I may not have the answer, but I would understand it really well. Like it's almost like you're trying to get inside a house and they say, well, Brett, you got to get in. And you're looking around the house and you don't see any windows, you don't see any doors that are open, but you learn a lot about the house just by walking around it 25 times and looking at it from the bottom, looking at it from the top, you know what I mean? Like studying the history of the house. So by the time the week is ended, you may not know how to get into the house, but you know a hell of a lot more than you knew before you started. Let me know if you follow what I'm saying. Give me a yes if you get this. So it's the same thing would happen with this math problem. And what was crazy is, lo and behold, every week, like magic, We would always have the answer on Monday. And it was it was the weirdest thing to me. And you know what that taught me? Here's what that taught me. And I want you to walk away with this final point. This is a point that I want to give you that I'm hoping will help you in terms of doing anything you want to do in your life. I learned that the more you think about something, the more insights you're going to get. That you should never get to the point where you just think you got it all figured out, or that, oh, I already been there, done that. I already know that. No, there's always more you can learn. There's always another angle you can look at it from. There are classes in finance, for example, that I have taught 20 or 30 times. And I don't mind teaching it. If I've taught it 30 times, I don't mind teaching it 31 times because on that 31st time, I'm going to see something I didn't see the previous 30 times. Do you understand? So if something confuses you or something, or you're trying to figure something else out, just study it. Just be patient and just think about it. And I really think that just the act of thinking and encouragement of thinking, just saying, I don't know, let me think about that for a while. I think that makes us all better people. I think it gives us all better lives. I think it gives us better solutions because sometimes people just don't think. People think thinking is old fashioned or whatever, that it's stupid. And I'm like, no, you got to think because there are white folks out here trying to kill you. There are traps. There are capitalists out here trying to make you into a slave. There are people out here that don't want you to be happy. There's people out here that need you to be financially desperate, buried under student loans. They need you to be stuck. They need you to be ignorant. They don't want you to know what's going on. They want you to be distracted. They want you to be so sucked into your day-to-day life that you don't have time to think about other things that are happening all around you. And then next thing you know, your life isn't what you want it to be. So just sit back and think. That's something I want to. So I shared everything else about economic security and all that, but a lot of that really just comes from thinking. Thinking is connected to consciousness. The more you think, the more conscious you'll become. Like I mentioned to you all before, how when they studied like little 5-year-olds in kindergarten, and they found that the kids who had the most insight into the room, who understood the other children the best, were the quiet kids. It was the quiet kid who sat back and just would observe the other kids, and they could tell you everything that was happening in the room. They could tell you who did what, who was friends with who broke up with so and so, broke up. Cindy broke up with Billy, and blah blah, because they're just watching, right? So watch, just watch and think, and then I guarantee you that if you do that, you're gonna figure out exactly where you want to position yourself. Like you become the chess master where you can position yourself as a chess piece and say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is not where I want to be. This is the type of relationship I want to be in. These are the types of business people I want to deal with. This is where I want to be financially. And that's how you end up winning, not just in the game of economics, but remember, I think winning the game of economics is the key to winning the game of life. If you are financially free, you have a massive constraint taken off of your back that therefore allows you to go and truly engage in the world in a way that is going to make you feel powerful and wonderful. It is a beautiful thing if you know how to do this. And then here's the other thing too. If you have kids, give that gift to your kids. Give your kids the gift of financial freedom. Please do that. Don't leave them out here struggling and making them think because you black you're supposed to go through hell. There's nothing about being black that says you're supposed to struggle. Nothing. Absolutely. Even I grew up believing. I don't know if some of y'all grew up like. I grew up believing that you had to struggle. If you're black, you're supposed to work twice as hard to get half as much. And my grandma used to tell me that. My grandma that's the Panther behind me. Her name's Felicia. That's my grandma. Rest her soul. But she used to tell me when you're black, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And I believe that because it's true if you work for white people. But what my grandma didn't tell me is that I don't have to live in a world where the white man decides what opportunities I get. Right? And it ain't right. Why should you have to work twice as hard to get half as much? I think you should work half as hard and get twice as much. How about that? How about we create that kind of world where you can work half as hard and get twice as much? And that's beyond this. So that's when I stop worrying about white privilege and start focusing on creating black privilege. We talk all day about white privilege, but we don't talk about the fact that you too have the ability to create black privilege. I think that you should give your children black privilege. Black privilege means, yeah, you're going to be 25 years old with $100,000 in the bank because daddy and mama had a plan for you when you were born and we were investing small amounts for you when you were a baby. So now you got wealth. You got some black privilege, and anybody who gets mad at you, every hater, because you're gonna have haters because you're doing so well. Every successful person has haters, and all the haters that are mad at you because you ain't got to struggle like them. then that just means somebody didn't make a plan for them. And misery loves company. So because my daddy didn't do nothing for me, I'm mad that your daddy did something for you. That's not appropriate. Or because my mama didn't think about the future, that your mama shouldn't have either. That's silly. No, I want all of our kids to have black privilege, and I believe we can manufacture black privilege on a mass scale by being committed to that. And so every time you get tempted to think about white privilege, just know that the same ingredients it takes to create white privilege are similar to the ingredients it takes to create black privilege, and that typically comes through the pathway of wealth. Wealth is the key. Wealth is the key. Wealth is the key. You know what you need to do because you're talking to me every day, and I know wealth pretty well. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. I hope this conversation was beneficial to you. We're going to meet tomorrow morning again at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to be invited to the private Zoom, make sure you get on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Or if you live in another country, you can just go to drboyceelevate.com and sign up there, drboyceelevate.com. Last but not least, later on today at 2 p.m., I'm going to meet with Asada from Urban Intellectuals, and they're going to talk. She's going to talk about their Black Math Genius program, which we're going to blend with our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program. So we're going to generate kids that are going to be financial geniuses who also are math geniuses, right? So this is how we're going to conquer the world. This is the plan. So I will text you all a link to join the conversation later this afternoon if you want to see what they're doing over there, and that's what we're into right now. So anyway, guys, God bless you. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I love you. Take care. Bye bye. And all kinds of fundraising records and everything else. And it's almost like she's her candidacy has really galvanized the Democratic Party. And money was I think part of the reason that Biden was pushed out. He basically was told that if you don't step down, we're not going to give you any more money. And so now Kamala has taken his place, and apparently it's working. I mean, she's just bringing in the bread like none other. And in fact, I think that they raised over $100 million since she took over, which I think is great for them for sure. And money is really important in politics. One of the things about money, and this is one of the things that I want you to just keep in mind is that money kind of drives everything, especially in American politics. And part of the reason that if you feel as a black voter that you don't really get paid attention to and that they seem to do things for other people and not you, a lot of it's because we've been falsely led to believe that votes matter as much as money. That literally, if you're the one who's providing the votes, that you are the important commodity, you're the one that matters, and that's not the evidence I've seen. The evidence I've seen is that the money is used to buy the votes. The money is used for advertising. So you don't serve the people giving you the votes because those people are just commodities that you actually purchased in the minds of the politician. You actually you serve the people that give you the money to get the votes. So if I have a chicken farm and someone gives me money to buy a bunch of chickens that I then serve and sell a KFC, I'm not here to honor the chickens. You honor the person who gave you the money to buy the chickens. Do you understand? So I would encourage you to really understand this is why Black economics I think is so important. And and as Kamala Harris raises money, one thing that's also interesting is um, I saw someone who was sort of comparing the way Kamala would speak to, say, the Jewish community and APAC and Zionists, Israel and stuff like that, versus how she would speak to the Black community. And so when she spoke to the Black community, she said, "Well, it's not like I'm gonna sit here and do something solely for Black people or something just for Black people." But then when she spoke to the people that represent APAC, it was kind of a different tone. It was like, "Yeah, this is what we're going to specifically do for you." And I think that the difference is that one group provides votes, the other group provides money that buys votes. So just kind of know that this is how the political game works. One of the things about politics that's really interesting is that if you were to take the money out of politics, you'd have a much better political system. The fact that money is so wrapped up in American politics, I think, is one of the problems that we have that kind of holds our country back. Now, if you have a question and you're inside the Zoom, go ahead and put your question in the Q&A section. I will answer any and all financial questions you guys have. Based on what I'm looking at right now, the market looks pretty strong. It looks like it's kind of another good day. As I look at CNBC, I think I saw something where the market was up a little bit today. And here's an article I'm going to read to you and kind of give some context on this in terms of where the economy is going. It says here the June home sales slump, pointing to a buyer's market as supply increases. So home prices are going down slightly. this month, and they said that the sales of previously owned homes dropped 5.44% in June compared with May. Inventory, meaning the supply of homes, jumped 23.4% from a year ago to 1.32 million units at the end of June, coming off record lows, but still just a 4.1 month supply. The median price of an existing home sold in June was $426,900. How many of y'all think that's crazy? That the median price of a house is now over $400,000. That's insane. And just to give you like a little strategy, a little income strategy, and I've done this in our prime class where we talk about how to generate income from stock options. I said, well, what if you just, what if you're instead of buying a house, what if a person instead of buying a house and using it, say, as rental property, what if you bought, say, I don't know, 1,400 shares of Coinbase stock or something, let's say 1,500 shares, which would cost a little bit more than the price of a home in less than that if you use margin. I said you do know that you can sell the options on the Coinbase stock each month and make maybe 12 or $13 a share, which would come out to I want to say 15 to $20,000 a month. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that you could sell stock options and generate far more income than you could by doing rental property. So if you want to join that program, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com. A lot of you are in the program and I think you like it. And that's pretty much what we talk about is like where the money is. So the URL is drboyceprime.com, drboyceprime.com. All right. So I read Trump apparently wants a refund on money spent campaigning against Biden. Yeah, he probably does. Trump is a funny guy. That's all I'll say about that. Would you buy or sell Microsoft and CrowdStrike? I like Microsoft. I don't know how I feel about CrowdStrike because I think that the way the whole airline situation went, and I was in the middle of it. I flew a Delta flight. It was KLM, I guess, which is an international extension of Delta or something. I remember the word Delta being used, and I remember being concerned when I was coming back from Amsterdam that a lot of the Delta flights have been grounded as a result of what happened with Microsoft and CrowdStrike. So I get a sense that the world looks at that outage as CrowdStrike's fault. I don't know if it's going to hit Microsoft as much. Microsoft is a little bit more diversified. They're a bigger, stronger company, but somebody messed up. And I spoke about that this morning. If you were in financial consciousness training, you'll know that we talked about just the idea that it's just strange that you would have a scenario where nobody has a backup plan. Microsoft doesn't have a backup plan in case CrowdStrike can't do their job. The airlines don't have a backup plan in case Microsoft can't do their job. So they were literally trying to write these boarding passes by hand. And I was telling you all that if you want to be a good black investor or a good non-black investor, some of y'all are not black, and that's okay. We love you too. We accept everybody, but this is the Black Business School. We are here for the black community first, but hey, anybody's welcome to join. And one of the things I can tell you is that if you want to be a good investor, you have to understand diversification. You have to understand risk management. You have to always be able to ask yourself, like, what if, what if, what if? This is why we do financial consciousness in the morning, because consciousness is the ability to see things that are not there, to see things that could be in the future, to see the present, the past, the future, all the possibilities, to rise to a higher dimension of thinking in terms of how you look at things. And a lot of people don't operate on a higher dimensional frequency when it comes to planning their life or planning their investments. For example, if you have a job with one income stream and you're living paycheck to paycheck, then it's very easy for you to get trapped into a terrible situation where you are incredibly vulnerable financially, where you are, where if one little thing happens, something goes wrong and you end up losing that job, you're done, you're fried, you're screwed, and the thing is, that's not where you want to be. You want to be in a position where you are financially prepared for anything that could go wrong, similar to the way Delta should have been prepared. Like, okay, if Microsoft goes down, here's our backup system or whatever. And I'm sure they're going to think about this now, but a lot of times people don't think about risk until it hits them in the face, right? They don't think about risk management or managing potential outcomes until something terrible happens, and then they become very reactive, as opposed to what you really should be. If you're an investor, you should be very proactive means I don't want to act after it happens, after something. I don't want to wait till something bad happens. Proactive means I prepare, to avoid the problem instead of having to fix and clean up the problem. And that's really an investing principle. That's a massive investing principle that has a direct impact on your ability to have wealth and build wealth. People who have wealth tend to be very proactive. They're thinking about all the things things that could go wrong, all the opportunities that might exist, all the possibilities in terms of what they could do. They're thinking about the past, the present, and the future. They're not just thinking about the here and now. If you can get your mind to that level of thought, then that's going to make a big difference for you. And if you want to get practice on financial consciousness, we do financial consciousness training every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948, and I'll invite you. I'll send you an invitation to the private Zoom. Text morning to 87948. All right, so let me read a little bit more. Okay, so we talked about housing sales. Housing sales have dropped this month, which is interesting because that's a more of a deflationary kind of issue. If prices and sales are declining, that kind of says the economy is slowing down a little bit. This opens the door for the Fed to possibly lower interest rates, which they will. The thing about inflation, though, is it's very important to know the difference between deflation and disinflation. Deflation is when prices go down. Deflation is when the price of your groceries drops and the price of cars and the price of houses drop. You're not going to get deflation. You don't even want deflation. Deflation means you have a terrible economy, bad things are happening. You're not going to get deflation. You're going to get disinflation. Disinflation means that you still have inflation. It just means that it's not as bad as it was before, right? So that means that instead of prices going up by 8%, prices are going up by 1 or 2%. Disinflation is what they're aiming for. They're not aiming for deflation. So prices are not coming down. They're not coming back to where they were. It will never be 2019 ever again, no matter how long you live or how long you wait. And this is one of the interesting dynamics of the economy that you should keep in mind. So when you look at the average home price being $426,000, I don't know about you, how many of y'all remember a time where a $400,000 house was a big deal? Does anybody remember any other old heads in here that remember when having a $400,000 house means you were doing pretty good? I don't know if anybody else remembers that. I know I do. I remember when having a $400,000 house meant you were balling. Like that was a dream. And so now to be in a world where the average house is over $400,000 is absolutely crazy. That is just a strange economy that I've never thought I would live in, and it's one that concerns me a little bit. Because I don't think wages are matching that. I don't think that Americans' wages are going up at a rate that would justify the average person spending $400,000 on a house. So effectively, what's been built in America is you have an unbalanced economy. You have an unbalanced economy where there are people that are doing really well in this economy, that are prospering. They're going to have lots of wealth, lots of opportunities, and then you're building this really ever-growing underclass, this massive underclass of people that are really going to struggle, where money is connected to all kinds of stress, and it's going to be really hard to survive. So here's what I want to propose to you. I want you to consider this. We used to live in a world where being financially intelligent was optional, where it was a good choice to make. It would put you in a better position than you would have been otherwise. I think it's gone from being optional to being mandatory for anybody that really wants to survive. Like it's not optional anymore. It's mandatory. And the reason it's mandatory is because this is not an economy where you could just drop yourself in the middle of it and take any opportunity that's given to you and be okay. You can't. You can't just follow the crowd and follow the culture and do what everybody else is doing and be okay. Well, why is that? Well, because the culture tends to lead to jobs that underpay, massive student loans. If you follow the crowd, you're going to end up spending more money than you actually have, going deep into debt to do that. If you follow the culture, you'll end up not saving or investing your money. If you follow the culture, you'll avoid the stock market. You'll avoid other markets that can allow you to grow wealth. So you cannot follow the crowd. You cannot be unconscious in this economy. You must be financially conscious. Everyone must be financially conscious. Consciousness means that rather than me just dropping myself in a place in taking whatever life gives me and landing wherever I land, conscious means I'm specific and strategic about exactly where I want to be. Because this economy is like a smorgasbord. There's 50 different dishes you can eat, right? You can't eat them all. You can't eat them all. And you can eat more than one, but you can consciously choose what to put on your plate. Now, if you don't do it, if you just unconsciously grab anything that you see, then you're going to eat something nasty or something that makes you sick. But if you're conscious and you are consciousness means, education and awareness. Okay, I'm educated on the nutritional value of every single dish on this smorgasbord. Awareness means I know where the carrots are. I know where the lettuce is. I know where the bologna is. I know where I know where the steak is, right? And then another level of consciousness is in my actions. I'm going to specifically grab some strawberries specifically grab the carrots, specifically grab the spinach so that I can have the kind of meal that's going to make me healthy as opposed to my friend who's just grabbing anything that's in front of them. And next thing you know, they're sick and they're dead. But I'm doing well because we ate from the same smorgasbord where we had different levels of consciousness. Do you understand? So when you talk about your economics and how you build your economic situation, for yourselves and especially for your children, consciousness is absolutely critical. So, what does that look like? Well, that means if I'm a parent and I want my kids to be able to benefit in this economy where most people can't afford a house anymore, I'm going to start investing and saving for them right now, so that by the time they get to adult age and are able to buy property, they'll have enough resources to be able to make that move. Consciousness may mean that I'm going to do what the was it East? It's not. Is it East Asians or East Indians? I can't remember whichever culture. There's a part of the Asian community that has the highest wealth in America, and their average income or something is over 100,000 a year. They have a lot of wealth, and part of the reason they have so much income and wealth is because they're very conscious. They train their children on entrepreneurship, business ownership. They make sure their kids understand how to control assets. There's a part of India that is known for having the wealthiest people just on earth. They came to the United States, and there's one section of India that a lot of them come from, and they found in a study that they own something like 60% of the hotels in the United States. It was some ungodly number. And what they found was that they had a conscious system that they put in place of hotel ownership, how they went about acquiring assets, financing those assets. Is that the Gujarata? I can't pronounce it. Natasha, you got to forgive me. I don't know everything, but thank you, Natasha, for sharing that. Yeah, I'm gonna say Gujarata. The Gujarata Indians own a lot, not because they got lucky or because there was affirmative action or DEI programs or they got a bunch of black jobs. They own a lot of stuff because they were very conscious about building systems and culture around ownership and asset acquisition and also wealth preservation. So you have to be conscious about that. If you don't, then this economy is going to run away from you. I mean, I see people now with car notes over $1,000 a month. Do you know how much wealth you would have if you invested the same amount that some people spend on their car note? So when you watch BET and they get you thinking that you're supposed to spend $800 a month on a car, but you ain't investing nothing, that's an economic death. They're serving you economic poison when they do that to you. Do you know how much 800 or $1,000 a month becomes if you do that for 20 straight years and you grow, you look at compound interest. Now think about it. Let me see. I'm gonna do the math in my head real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 750. Okay, let's do. I'm gonna do 750 a month. If you do 750 a month and you invested randomly, let's say you knew nothing about stocks and all you did was every time you invested, you just bought stocks from the S&P 500. That's all you have to do. You just randomly pick. You pick Tesla, Microsoft, whatever. After about 10 years, that person would have roughly $100,000 in wealth. After 20 years, they'd have roughly $500,000. After 30 years, they'd have roughly $1.2 million. So if you're a person that's been driving fancy ass cars for the last 20 years, you could be close to being a millionaire if you just loved yourself as much as you love your car. If you cared about your kids as much as you care about driving around in a Lincoln Navigator, then your kids could be wealthy, which means that they would have a much easier time navigating through life as a black person than they would being broke. Being black is hard, but being broken black is damn near impossible. Being broken black is literally just a pathway to slavery. It all links back to slavery that ended in 1865, right? They just said, okay, we can't enslave black people anymore, so let's just economically enslave them. Let's put them in impossible situations where they have no options, and a person with no options is basically a slave because someone else controls all your options. You gave all your options away or you sold them, and somebody else gets to decide what you're going to do that day. That's slavery. That's what slavery is, folks. I hate to say it like that, but it's true. All right, so let me answer. I see a question. What are my thoughts on Alcoa? I think Alcoa is a solid company. It's more in the cash cow category. I wouldn't see it as a stock that's like represents any sort of company that's going to be growing or doing amazing things in the next few years. But yeah, it's a good, decent long-term investment. I assume they pay a decently high dividend, stuff like that. Let me see, what else am I reading here? Let me go through a couple more headlines here on the markets. Be really careful because there is some belief that this market is not, that it could be overvalued. That when it's overvalued, that means that any little thing can cause it to crash. So if you haven't put things in place to protect your investments, you may want to do that. I did a training called Stormproof Investing that shows you different ways to protect your portfolio in case of a crash. So you can feel free to go take a look at that. You can go to stormproofinvesting.com. That's stormproofinvesting.com. All right, so let's see. Okay, give me a second here. I saw an article I wanted to go through. Um, okay, GM slowing their EV plans. Uh, will Bitcoin reach its $1 million milestone in 2025? No, it won't. That's BS. It won't hit a million in 2025. I think it'll go up, but it won't hit a million. The Department of Transportation is investigating Delta over the IT outage. Yes, they should. Something needs to be fixed. Um, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigns over the Trump shooting. Yeah, she probably should. You had a guy 100 feet away from him that almost shot his face off. Let's see. Ether ETFs officially begin trading in the U.S. with funds from BlackRock, Grayscale, and more. So there are Ether ETFs out that are going to be traded soon. Ether, I'm gonna read what it says here. It says Ether is the native cryptocurrency on the Ethereum blockchain. I believe in Ether. I believe it's going to go up. I believe it's a good investment long term. While Bitcoin is often pitched as a type of digital gold, Ether is seen as more of a bet on the growth of the blockchain and crypto more broadly. So some people actually believe Ether is a better investment than Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't really proven itself to be very useful, whereas the Ethernet, or sorry, the Ethereum and just what they do on that blockchain is just pretty astonishing, pretty amazing. Just the way they structure contracts and stuff like smart contracts and all that. I cannot imagine a world where that doesn't kick in, especially with artificial intelligence. When you mix artificial intelligence with crypto and the blockchain, you're going to get some extraordinary outcomes. I mean, I think if you mix AI with anything, it's gonna. I mean, I'm a believer. I'm an AI evangelist. I believe AI is going to just change the world in amazing ways. Now, the debate around AI is that there are people who wonder if AI is going to generate enough profitability to match the expectations. People expect it to be $1 trillion sort of breakthrough. And they're basically a year and a half in. They're kind of saying, okay, we're waiting. We're not really seeing all this money that's supposed to be made from AI. I think that they're just being impatient. I think that AI is going to show itself big time. I think that as AI gets better and eventually you hit artificial general intelligence, and then you get to the point where they literally say that when AI hits the level where AI can be as smart as an AI researcher, that could be the last invention ever made by any human being ever. Because they said that at that point, when you have AI that is as smart as the people that have PhDs in artificial intelligence, then you could just literally mass produce 10 million PhDs that are working together to constantly solve problems. And they could probably solve problems collectively in a day that might take 20 or 30 years of research. And so it kind of is this explosion of knowledge and information. I don't know what the hell that's going to look like. I mean, it's going to be amazing and scary and crazy and everything else. But I mean, they even have the robots where they can build their own factories and then build other robots. I mean, when it starts building upon itself, it becomes a real life version of kind of what compound interest is. Compound interest, that's what compound interest is. Compound interest is basically breeding. It's where money breeds more money. Your dollar bills have sex with each other and give birth to more dollar bills. And it gets to the point where you get so much money, like a Warren Buffett, he can't stop making money. He wouldn't be able to stop making money if he tried. He's made more money in the amount of time I've been talking to you than most of you are ever going to make in your whole entire lives. I kid you not. Warren Buffett has probably made more money in the time I've had this conversation than most people will make in an entire lifetime. So this is what compound interest does. So when I visualize what AI will do, AI, I believe, will be like compound interest. It'll just keep building on top of itself and then create things that we can't even imagine. They're even talking about protein compounds, and somehow because the proteins are so complex and you have to fold them into these three-dimensional things. I don't understand it at all, but I remember listening to lectures on it. And the guy said, he said the way it was before, the rule was that one PhD, it took a whole PhD, his entire PhD process to generate like one protein or something, one protein compound or something, like one per PhD. So you go to Yale, you bust your butt, you study in 12 hours a day for 5 years, and then you come out and you've got one of these coat protein compounds. I think they were kind of saying that AI could do like 1,000 of them in an hour, or something crazy. And so they were really talking about this explosion in just the number of drugs, the types of drugs they could create, because the things that used to take years to do can now be done in a day or two, or pretty soon they will be. So AI is going to be big. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I will say that if you want to be safe, I would encourage you to invest in. Well, this is not investing advice, but I'm going to say I'm investing in AI. If you want a list of the AI stocks that I like, just text the word stock to the number 87948. Text stock to 87948. Somebody type 87948 in the chat so everybody can see it. That's the best I can offer you on that. All right, so let's see. Next question. Is Alcoa good for options trading? Asked Christian. You could probably trade options on it or sell options and buy options and all that. I don't personally pick it because it's not a high income generator, but I mean, yeah, if you owned it and you wanted to generate income, you could sell options on it. You could buy options. Every option strategy that you could do that with Alcoa. Just Alcoa's, there's nothing special about it from an option standpoint, in my opinion. If you want to see the ones that generate the most income, if you log in at drboyceprime.com, I have a list of what I call Dr. Boyce moneymakers, which is stocks that I specifically picked out because of their income earning potential. Like Marathon Digital is one that's really good at generating income. Like a person could live pretty well if they saved some money and bought some Marathon stock. You could almost save. I almost look at it like starting a little business. If I go and I spend my life savings $50,000 and I open a convenience store, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing it because my plan is I'm going to open the store, and then I put all my money into the store, and then the store is going to generate income for me on a regular basis. Well, you can do the same thing with shares of stock, and a lot of people don't know that. So I could go and I could buy. I don't know. Again, I like Coinbase as an example. I could buy, 1,000 shares of Coinbase, which would cost me a decent amount, but let's say $250,000. But a lot of you have put that much money into your businesses or your real estate deals and all that. And I could sell the options on that Coinbase stock every month for maybe $12 or $13 a piece. And so I can make $14,000 a month just by being an owner in Coinbase stock. And I like that approach much better than the other approaches because it doesn't require any work. It's a highly liquid investment, which means I can get out of the deal at any time I want. If you go into real estate, anybody who's been in real estate knows that it takes a while to get out of a deal. It's not like something you can do in a day. And sometimes you can't get out at all, especially if the market's down. Or if you think about starting a business, if you start a black-owned business, you can't sell that business because there's no market for that business. Stocks have a highly liquid, highly active market. Good stocks do. So you can get out of it anytime you want to. You could get out, you could get in and get out in an hour if you wanted. So that's my preferred way to make money, and I think it's something that worth looking into. If you want to learn more about that kind of thing, I have a training called How to Make Money Without Working that I did. It's about 45 minutes. I think you'll really like it. And it's you can get it by texting the word money to 87948. So text money to 87948. You'll instantly get a text that will have that link in there, so you can check that out. All right, so let's see here. Uh, Rain asked about Nike stock. Is it good to sell options? I don't feel like Nike's good for options, but Nike might be good as a long-term investment, especially if the market dips. If the market drops, don't be scared. Don't feel like that's a bad thing. When the market drops, that means everything's cheaper. So when the market drops, my thought would be that's an opportunity for you to dig into some of those stocks that you've been wanting. I've been keeping cash to the sidelines because I'm kind of waiting for the market to I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall. I feel like something bad's going to happen this fall. I cannot imagine getting through the fall without us having some sort of market decline or collapse or adjustment or correction. But that's my personal speculation. I could be wrong. So don't follow that as investing advice, but just know this is what I'm thinking about. Michael Ruff, are you more bullish on Ethereum over Bitcoin? No. I'm just bullish on both of them. I like Ethereum more because Ethereum's more interesting. If you look at what they're doing on the Ethereum blockchain, it's pretty fascinating when they get into smart contracts. And I could really see what Ethereum can do to make our society better. I can't really see that with Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin as just this speculative asset that just sits there and you buy it and you hold it and you can't spend it really. It's hard. I mean, you kind of can, but not really. It's not widely usable for purchases and transactions. And you're literally just buying it and holding it and waiting for the price to go up. I don't want to do that. I like investments that you can sink your teeth into and do stuff with it. Like my house is an investment. Our house is an investment, but because it's going up in value. It's gone up a few $100,000 since we've owned it, but I can use it until I sell it. Until I get money from it, I get to do things with it, right? I like investments like that better. I like investments that kind of give you something to do while you're waiting for time to pass. I don't like just buying it and just staring at it, just sitting there waiting for it to go up. That's kind of I don't know. It's kind of a I don't know. It's boring to me. I think investing should be fun. And in fact, my thought would be if you start a business, I would say advice, but this is not advice really. My perspective would be if you go into business and you're going to spend time working on something, work on something that you care about. Work on something that you love. If it's just about the money, I don't think it's going to last very long because you're not going to be passionate about it. It's going to suck to work on this thing when you're not making money. You may spend years not making any money. But if you love it, then you'll still get a benefit. You'll get a non-financial benefit until the money comes. Do you understand what I mean? So if you're doing investing in a business that is not a passion for you, I would make myself a silent partner or a non-involved investor. Like, okay, here's some money. You go do the thing. You go make it happen. Just send me a check when the money comes in. That's what I would do. I would not want to be having meetings and sitting here talking about something that doesn't interest me. So that's what I would suggest. So with entrepreneurship, it's kind of tough. Like I don't really get it when people say that they're working on five or six businesses at once, unless those are five or six things that are connected somehow and they all connect to something that you care about. Because remember, you are important. Your time is important. Your life is important. Your time is precious. It's going to end soon. And so when you give your time to something or someone or anything at all, it should be worth it for you. If it's not worth it for you, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's my belief. Okay. Anybody got any questions before we bounce out of here? I'm going to hit another quick topic and then we're going to go. I have to admit I'm not feeling 100% today. So I think I'm gonna go to the doctor and kind of get checked out. Let's see here. Okay, I'm looking to see what no, most of these stories here about Kamala, she raised all that money. And I'm impressed. I mean, she set records. She actually raised more money than any candidate ever in that amount of time. So Trump's got something to worry about with Kamala. She's coming in hard. Um Wow. Okay. A Silicon Valley executive had $400,000 stolen by cyber criminals while buying a home. Here is her warning. Let's check this out. This is interesting. So Rana Robillard, chief people officer, I don't know what a people officer is, at software startup Techion, was tricked into sending her life savings to a criminal. What happened to Robillard, a 25-year veteran of tech company, speaks to the increasingly sophisticated nature of cybercrime. Real estate, with its large transaction sizes and frequent use of wire transfers, has proven to be an especially lucrative target for criminals. After a year-long search, Rana Robillard was elated to learn she'd beaten three other bidders for a house in the leafy California suburb of Orinda, just outside of San Francisco. So when Robillard, chief people officer at software startup Techion, received an email in late January from her mortgage broker with directions to wire $398,359.58 in the down payment to JP Morgan Chase, she wasted no time sending the money. After all, the email appeared to be a response to one Robillard had sent her broker asking about final steps before the closing, which was rapidly approaching. But on January 30th, the day she sent the wire, Robillard got what looked like a duplicate request for the down payment, and it dawned on her that she had fallen for a scam, one that would throw her life into turmoil for the next 6 months. To her horror, instead of sending a down payment for her future home to the title company, as she believed she'd done, Robillard had been tricked into sending her life savings to a criminal. That's when I went into a full panic, she said. Which verified the details of her story with the four banks involved. What happened to Robillard, a 25-year veteran of tech companies, including cybersecurity firm HackerOne, she speaks to the increasingly sophisticated nature of cybercrime. Fraudsters are able to penetrate the email systems of mortgage brokers, real estate agents, lawyers, and other advisors, waiting for the perfect moment to strike by sending emails or phone calls that appear to be from trusted parties. Oh my God. Lord Jesus. Oh my God. Holy shit. Real estate, with its large transaction sizes and frequent use of wire transfers, has proven to be an especially lucrative target for criminals. Wires are faster than other forms of payment, typically closing within 24 hours, can handle far larger sums, and are often irreversible, making them ideal for fraud. Scams, including involving fake emails and real estate deals, have exploded over the last decade, rising from less than 9 million in losses in 2015 to 446.1 million by 2022, according to the FBI. Once criminals have a victim's money, they quickly shuffle it to other bank accounts before withdrawing it as cash, converting it into crypto, or exploiting mules to launder the funds, according to Naftali Harris, CEO of anti-fraud startup Centrelink. That's why recovering funds in wire fraud can be so difficult, he added. The faster the fraudster moves it out of the first account, and the more institutions they move it to, the better for them because it gets murkier and harder to track, Harris said. That's what initially happened to Robilar's funds, which went from a JP Morgan Chase account to one at Citigroup and Ally Bank, according to people with knowledge of her case. Robillard had alerted her bank, Charles Schwab, of the fraud on January 30th. Within days, an official working in the cyber branch of San Francisco of the FBI had this message, quote, "Funds have been located and are frozen," the official said. Okay, so it looks like she got her money back, maybe. After that promising start, Robillard's frustrations have only mounted. Robillard says she was initially told that her funds would likely be released after 90 days, but as the weeks and months stretched on, there were few updates from JP Morgan, which has taken the lead on the case. The FBI told her once the banks involved had frozen the funds, its role was over, she said. So Robillard became obsessed with advocating for herself, reaching out to elected officials and government agencies, including the FTC and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Quote, "Nobody will give you any updates or information," Robillard said. "I've been very assertive, trying to get people to help, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera." In early July, she told CNBC she had no idea whether she would ever see her money again. And while been in financial limbo, the world has moved on. The home she had envisioned living in with her daughter, a newly renovated 4-bedroom on nearly half an acre of land, has been relisted for $1.63 million. Robillard says she decided to publicize her story to boost awareness of real estate wire fraud, besides being a last-ditch attempt to get her money back. She said, "This is not what I thought my public representation would look like," et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. Robillard acknowledges that she could have been more cautious before initiating the wire transfer. For one, she says she should have confirmed with OS National, the title company, by open door, that the wire request sent to her in January was authentic. But Robillard also sees ample room for improvement in all the parties involved. Her real estate agent should have explained that wire directions would be coming directly from the title company. The banks should have verified that the receiving account was that of a genuine title company and not a fraudster, and her mortgage broker should have used a secure portal for document sharing. In a chain of more than 20 emails seen by CNBC, let's see, Christy Archinger of Compass Mortgage Advisors was just one was sent by the cyber criminal. Okay, so just one email was sent by the criminal. All the other emails were sent back and forth to him. So it looks like to me like the criminal was watching all these emails going back and forth. And so the criminal says, okay, so she's expecting an email from person B that's going to ask her to wire this money. So I'm going to step in and be person B and then give her the wrong wire information. That's what I'm guessing is here, which is so crazy because this means now you really have to double check. You can't just trust an email or a text message. And then eventually you won't be able to trust a phone call or even a Zoom call. I don't know if anybody's seen AI, but now they have AI where a person can put on a mask, basically, like have a fake face and move and talk as that person. Did y'all know that? I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but literally you could be on a Zoom meeting with somebody, and if you don't know them, like if you think it's Steve from Bank of America, it'll look like Steve from Bank of America talking to you. Like I could literally be a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes talking to you right now, based with this AI technology. So it's really getting interesting. Maybe talking on the phone can help and just having them say, "I'm sending you the information right now." Let's see here. After more than 5 months in limbo, Robillard finally caught a break. A few days after CNBC contacted the banks, she received a $150,000 wire from Chase. Good. It's funny that yeah, of course they reacted because they knew CNBC was about to write a story about it. And then she got the balance of her down payment, which is another $250,000. And of course, the banks are trying to cover their butts, but this is interesting, right? So maybe we have to go back to the business of doing business in person with people. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, because everything digital, it seems, can be duplicated, replicated. Like there was a time going back just 5 years ago, if something was on video, that was seen as evidence. Now that's not true anymore. Everybody remember when R. Kelly went when that first crazy R. Kelly video came out in 2001, 2002. Everybody knew it was him because he was in that video. I didn't even watch it though. I just took people's word for it because you ain't supposed to be looking at stuff like that. That's nasty. Um, but anyway, now if that were to happen now, you can say, "Oh, it's fake. It's AI." Or if somebody hated him and they wanted to create a fake video, they could, right? So ultimately, AI is changing everything, and I think that if you aren't keeping up with AI, I would encourage you to do that, because it's going to make a big difference in your life. And it's also one of these things where, from a work and productivity standpoint, the use of AI can make you enormously productive. And if you live with your head in the sand and don't pay attention, you're going to get left behind, and there's a good chance you're going to get duped, and you could end up getting replaced by somebody who's using tools that you never took the time to pay attention to. The other piece of that too is, again, going back to investing. There are companies that are going to explode and make insane amounts of money from AI. There's an expectation that one day AI will produce a $1 billion company run by one person. It'll be the first $1 billion company ever created where one person is running that company. So I think investing in AI is a big move. So I have a list of AI stocks. If you'd like to see some stocks that I've invested in to prepare for the AI revolution, just text the word stock to 87948 and I'll send you the list. Just text stock to 87948. Okay, a few more questions, then we can bounce out. Let's see. What are a few ticker symbols of the Marathon stock? Every stock, Barbara, only has one ticker symbol. Marathon stock's ticker symbol is MARA, M-A-R-A, M-A-R-A. What are your thoughts on Valero as a stock and for stock options? I don't know. Let me look that up in a second. I'll write that down. And Valero. Okay. Let's see. Make sure you tell the doctor you've been overseas traveling. Ask Marcia. Okay, I will. I would definitely do that. Thank you for that tip, Marcia. I love you too. Let's see. Natika says, "How do you feel about TV Tokyo Holdings Corporation (TYO)?" Okay, I will look both of those up. And one more thing to remind you, and the reason part of the reason I have to go also is because late in about an hour, I'm going to speak with Asada from Urban Intellectuals about her Math Genius program, which we're blending with our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program to make sure our kids are not just financial geniuses, but that they know the math behind it. The schools are not teaching math at an adequate level, and if you don't know math, you can't make money because you can't. You have to be able to count your money. You have to be able to know percentages and stuff like that. So, and because we know that we can educate our own kids, we're partnering with people that are doing that. So, Asada is going to come in here about 2 p.m. Eastern, and I'll text you guys the link. If you want to get notified, text the word morning to 87948. These are just different lists you can get on if you want to get information from the Black Business School. So if you text morning to 87948, you'll get an invitation to the afternoon meeting as well as our Money in the Morning financial consciousness training, which we do every single morning, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to look up those stocks really quick, and then that'll be the last thing we do today before we bounce on out. Okay, so let's see. Valero, Valero. Okay, Valero. Let's see. It is an energy company. Okay, in the manufacture and marketing of transportation fuels. I like the investment in energy. Um, yeah. I mean, would I buy this stock? I don't own it, but I like it. I like it. Now, as far as an asset to sell options on, I mean, it's not terrible. Let me see. Is it high risk or medium? It doesn't seem to be high risk. So if you did pursue an option strategy to generate income from the stock while you owned it, if the price is 147 and you did say a monthly call option that you sold, you could sell that for 214. That there are better stocks to generate income from, but that's not bad. So let's say you owned 1,000 shares of this stock. Well, you could generate a couple $1,000s a month, by selling the option. So it could be a moneymaker while you wait for the price to go up. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's not one that I'm going to buy, but I don't hate it. The premiums are pretty weak, Kendall. That's a good point. It's weak relative to some of the other assets that you can dig into. All right, so TYO, Direxion Daily, 7 to 10 year Treasury Bear 3X. Okay. Now when I looked up TYO, I didn't get that Tokyo company. I got um, the daily 7 to 10 year Treasury Bear 3X shares, which, let's see, it provides 3 times exposure to a market value weighted index of Treasury bonds with remaining maturities between 7 and 10 years. So that's all about Treasury bonds. So that other stock, I didn't see anything about Tokyo in this ticker. So it may not be traded in the United States. So Yeah, so I don't have much to say about that because that other one was kind of that's not what I'm interested in at all. So but yeah, so bring your questions next time. I'll be happy to answer them and see you in their Kindles. Good to see you. I hope you guys will consider coming to the All Black National Convention. It's going to be October 25th through the 27th in Chicago or a suburb of Chicago called Lombard, Illinois. We are making deals every day with great people that are coming. Dr. George C. Fraser is coming now. Brother Nuri Muhammad is going to be one of our speakers. Lamar Tyler, the Black millionaire maker, is going to be there. Constance Carter, who owned the largest Black real estate firm in California, is going to be there. Just did about 30 other scholars. We met a sister who is the president of the National Black Psychologists Association. She's going to be there. The president of a college in Illinois, Prairie State College. We're working to get him there. So there's a lot of people that are coming. So if you want to be around people who are not scared to be Black, who believe we can solve our own problems, who are just great people to know, who can you can start investment groups with. We have lots of students that have investment groups and investment clubs, and they're working together. We have over 1,000 students that are trading and selling stock options and generating large amounts of money, large amounts of income from that. We have a mastermind. I don't mention it that much, but I do have a mastermind. If you want to apply for the mastermind, you can go send an email to support at theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support at theblackbusinessschool.com. They can help you find anything that you're looking for, and we got you covered. So anyway, have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, Amani. I see you, Amani, in the chat. Amani's part of our team, and she really helps a lot. And I'm going to go and head on out. So good to see you. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Yeah, so anyway, I thought that today would be a fun day to answer some questions. If you have any questions for me on economic related issues, don't let's save questions about stocks and stock options and stuff like that for later because we have special sessions on that. But just general questions about economics, you can blend that with any other topic that you want because as you know, economics is very holistic and be more than happy to answer any question. If you could just make it sort of short, that way I can answer as many as possible, that would be very helpful. And what I'm also going to do right now is I'm going to send out a text message to everybody that's on the text list and let them know that we are getting started with our economic elevation training. And if you want to be on the text list and get a text when we do this every single morning, 7 days a week, just make sure you get on the text list. You can do that by texting the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. All right. So give me a second here. You're going to get a text in 1 second. And that's me basically reminding everyone else that we're getting started here. Sometimes we need a little bit of a wake up call. All right. So let's see here. Let me say hi to some of the family that's in here. Let's see. I see Abel Loomis, AC Salam, Andrew Nixon, Angela Taylor, Anthony, Audrey Davis, Dunning, Badia Muhammad. Good to see you as well. Good to see all of you. I'm glad you guys are here. Alfred Kitchen and ladies are here. When I say guys is actually my generic way of saying like everybody, like the same way a girl might say, hey guys, hey you guys, but you're not talking about like men, you're talking about just people. And it's funny because one time I had a real funny, awkward conversation. I used to host this show on AOL Black Voices back in the day when the platform was much stronger than it was. Unfortunately, the platform kind of fell apart after Ariana Huffington took over, and she went in and she had a meeting with the guy who ran the platform, and I guess she decided that he wasn't qualified, and she completely just got rid of it or dismantled it. So everybody kind of lost their job at the same time, and at that time that was one of my Black jobs. I had a good Black job with AOL Black Voices. I'll tell you guys more about that later. And anyway, I was doing an interview on this little podcast they'd given me, and I was interviewing this lady named Michaela Angela Davis, and I remember that I was interviewing her in a panel of women, and I said, okay, all right, so here's what we're gonna do, you guys, and she says, we're not guys. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I apologize. Right. And so we start talking and the conversation's flowing, everything's going good. And then I say, okay, I got to ask you guys a question. And she's like, I said we're not guys. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll be quiet. I won't say nothing now. I'm sorry. So anyway, that was I'll never forget that. That was a very strange experience. And but some of y'all got to stop being so dang serious all the time. But anyway, hi Patricia Jackson. How are you? And yeah, so anyway, if you want to know about the AOL Black Voices gig, that black job that I had. The cool thing about the gig was it's okay. So at this time, I remember back in '07, '08, '06, all this black wealth talk wasn't really happening. Nobody was really talking about black economics at a high level or on big platforms. I would go into some urban radio stations and they say black people don't want to know anything about wealth. Black people don't care about economics. And I was like, yeah, but all the rappers keep rapping about money. So money probably matters to them. Like I think black people do care about it, but they really were sort of convinced that all black people really want is ignorance. That all they really want is sort of the simple backwards stuff. And in fact, when I started the Black Business School, I was actually told by a lot of black people that I was selling myself short. They said if you put the word black in there, you're going to alienate a lot of people because black people are not going to support you because black people don't want to support anything that isn't ignorant or entertainment based, right? And I just did it anyway because I knew that's silly because I have lots of black friends who believe in wealth, and I know most black people like money. They just may not know how to get it, right? Nobody really taught them properly how to acquire money, how to preserve money, how to pass money from one generation to the next, how to grow money. No one teaches that, right? But everybody wants it. Everybody wants it, and really, it's a problem, right? It becomes kind of a risk factor. It's a national security issue for the black community. When you really need something and you're addicted to something and you don't control the supply of the thing that you need the most, then you're very vulnerable to the people who do control the supply of that thing. Like when the British were supplying opium to the Chinese, and you had all these opium addicts that were waiting for the British ships to come in to bring them opium, it became just a real problem, right? Because not only are you a drug addict, but you also are addicted to a drug that other people hold and control. So the opium wars, from what I understand, was fought over this whole idea where you had people in the community who said, this is not what we want China to look like. China is not supposed to be a place full of ignorant opium addicts. We're not going to sit around and be dependent on the British. We want to be a strong nation, an independent nation, a liberated nation, and they fought for that. And the problem with that though was that the people who spoke up on it, the people who saw the chaos, who saw the ridiculousness, who saw the ignorance, they had to fight battles on two fronts. These had to be the strongest, the talented tenth, so to speak. They had to fight battles on two fronts because number one, you got to fight the drug dealer, which is the British, and then you got to fight the drug addict, which is the ignorant person who looks just like you, who is so addicted to the white man's supply that he's going to go fight a black man who stands between him and the drug. Do you understand? Do y'all get what y'all, let me know if you get where I'm going with this analogy. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying as I explain the difficult job that a lot of you are going to have, right? So the Chinese had the people that really built China, the people that really made China the great nation that it is right now, the superpower that it is, the country that economically and politically and militarily is now one of the strongest nations on earth, were the people that were committed to a strong, free China. They had to understand that sometimes you got to fight the enemy, and sometimes you got to fight the enemy within. Sometimes you have to defend from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Sometimes you got to fight them, and then sometimes you got to fight us. So when you use that term, they not like us, it might mean them, but sometimes they not like us might mean the people that look like us but ain't really like us, if you know what I mean, right? And it doesn't mean you hate them or get mad at them. It just means you stand firm on what you believe, you stand firm on who you are. And so my goal every single day in my life, really honestly, and I can't say I always reach every goal I set, but my goal is to be consistent. Yeah, that's it. My goal is not to be popular. My goal is not to be liked. My goal is not to make friends. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes you make a lot of friends. Sometimes you lose a lot of friends. The goal is just to be consistent, to say, I'm right here. I'm gonna be right here. This is what I'm gonna be. This is what I am. And to me, that I think represents a sturdiness that you can build on top of. You can't build an institution on flimsy foundations. You can't build an institution on wishy-washy wood. You can't build a building on bricks that may decide they want to show up for work and maybe don't want to show up one day, and you go back and forth. You can't build a building on materials made out of Play-Doh. You can't do that. You can't build an Empire State Building on a foundation of Jello. So flimsy people who don't know who they are, who are not consistent and clear, are typically just not people that you can really depend on and sort of build on because you don't know what you're going to get. So my goal is like, you know what? I'm going to try to make sure that every single day you know what you're going to get from me. Same thing is true with even with my kids. I married my wife. She had three children who it's a blended family, but I love those kids so much. I love them as if they're my own 100%. And I love that black woman that stood by me through a lot of difficult times. And let me tell you, if anybody, I don't know if anybody else has led a blended family. Has anybody ever led anybody else? How many of y'all got a blended family? I know that a lot of black folks have blended families. If you have a blended family and you've dealt with that, you know that earning the trust of the children is it's a task. It takes time because children, just like I was loyal to my mother and my father. If my mother had brought in another man and said, "Oh, this is the new head of the household" or something, I would have been like, "What? No, he's not. That's not daddy." You know, especially if I'd been 13. Like my wife's son was 13 years old, and he wasn't as tall as he now. He's 6'9", but back that time he was even then he was like 5'10", 5'11". And so he's sitting there and he's like, "Who is this guy? Like you like him. I don't like him. I don't even know him." And so it took a long time for us to form a relationship. Now our relationship is amazing. We're very, very close. We talk every day. We trust each other. We help each other. We have each other's back. I respect his father immensely. I let him know that. And you want to know the secret. Here was the secret. And this is something that may help some of you. I don't know. Because I believe family is essential to the black community. I think family requires us as leaders of households to understand our role and the sacredness of that role. The goal that I had with the kids, again, I'm no expert in parenting and I'm not a perfect person or nor a perfect parent. But one thing that I learned from my father was consistency. So I said, okay, I know that we have tension right now. I know that it's not easy. I know that you don't know who I am. I know it's going to take time to build your trust. But guess what? I'll wait and I'm going to be consistent. And every single day, I'm going to be right here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to be the same guy every day, consistently for years. And then what happened was when the kids eventually learned, okay, Boyce is here, whether we like it or not, and Boyce is consistent. Boyce is gonna be Boyce. Sometimes that means good things, sometimes it means bad things. Like our daughters get so mad because because I'll do little things like leave the cabinets open or leave the not but like little the 13-year-old has a weird thing about like hitting the clear button on the microwave. Like I'll put 2 minutes and 33 seconds and then I'll just pull my food out and it's like it says 41 seconds on there and she drives her crazy, right? And so every family has those little things. So I'm always going to be Boyce, but they know what they're going to get. They know they're going to get consistency from me. And so as a result, also that consistency that I've been committed to has also become a type of consistency that not only the children can depend on, but their friends depend on that. Their friends whose parents unfortunately have ups and downs and challenges, divorces, and it's everywhere. I mean, families break down consistently every day. And I'm not making fun of anybody's in that situation. I understand things happen. It is what it is. But but let me just tell you, my goal, I told my wife, is I said, I want all these kids in the neighborhood to know that no matter what they're going through, they can come to us if they need help, if they need just a place to stay, food to eat. Somebody's going to give them some encouraging words, some good information. And I believe, honestly, I really think if you're talking about nation building, right? And not everybody really gets this, not everybody cares about this type of stuff, but I really think if you're talking about nation building in the community, then I think that consistency is a really strong, significant value system that we should all sort of embrace. I think that being consistent about who we are is what helps us to build something that's strong. And so no, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to be running up and down over which Democrat or which Republican got elected. I'm not going to be changing my tune based on what's popular. I'm not trying to fit into the culture. I'm trying to be consistent. You know, they're just like a brick building, or not even brick, some steel, like a steel structure sitting in the middle of a tornado. You're in the middle. Honestly, as black people, I feel like you're in the middle of this cultural tornado. The wind is very strong, and some people just blow whichever way the wind blows. They're very leafy. These leafy Negroes. That's what, the leafy Negroes. The wind blows east, they go east. Wind blows west, they blow west because they don't know who they are. A leaf doesn't have a foundation. A leaf does not have roots. A leaf does not know who it is. The leaf does not know where it belongs. The leaf will go whichever way the wind blows. And the problem that you have is that you have a cultural tornado because your culture is kind of all over the place. There's people constantly out here talking, claiming the culture. BET's like, this is the culture. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's like three pregnant women with 80 tattoos twerking on the stage with liquor bottles in one hand and weed in the other. That's not, I don't identify with that. And then someone else is like, if you don't vote for so and so, then you're not part of the culture. You all know what I'm talking about, like the camel stuff. You're not in the culture. I'm like, no, that ain't the culture. answer. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I think you should. I've told y'all consistently, vote for who you want. So don't think I'm not telling you to. But you know, but that ain't me voting Democrat or Republican. Ain't got nothing to do with me having my culture. My culture is based on some simple ideas. Simple ideas like I want to have strong families. I really want to just reiterate over and over 10 million times to you how important families are in your wealth building process and how many trillions of dollars in black wealth was stolen when they destroyed your families, when they broke you into pieces and got you running around scrambling and baby mama, baby daddy in your way through life. They took away so much of your economics because if you want to just understand it on a practical level, think about how much easier it is to do something when you've got teammates versus when you have nobody. When you do it all by yourself, you can't really, it's hard to win in America when you're doing it all by yourself. It's really difficult. And really, I think this is part of the plan. I think remember, capitalism is kind of a son of a bitch. Capitalism is really insidious. It becomes slavery if you really look at it. Like in mathematics, they talk about limits on functions, where you take a variable and you take it all the way to the limit. Like, what happens if you take this number and you make it infinitely big? And which direction is this thing going, right? So basically, if you look at capitalism as a function, as a mathematical function, what you see is that if you take it to its limit, it becomes slavery. It really becomes slavery, where a person has to get up and do what you tell them to do. And maybe you're paying them, but you're paying them such little money that it really doesn't make a difference in their lives. It's just enough money for them to get by. It's not enough for them to escape the system. They are in the system and they're maintaining the system, but they're not gonna get what they need to break out of the matrix or break out of the system. Okay. So really capitalism is a type of slavery. And slavery works best when you're dealing with people that are economically desperate and divided. If they can divide you, they can conquer you. That's it. If they can break you into pieces, then they can take you down. So this is so when we talk about elections and all that, I know I say stuff that sometimes it makes people happy, sometimes it doesn't. And I apologize if it offends you, but all I give a damn about is I need you to not let politics break up the things in your life that are going to really matter for you. Don't let politics cause you to stop speaking to your cousin who had your back since you were a baby. Like that's not appropriate because when the election's over, the politicians are going to do exactly what they always do. They're going to disappear for another 4 years, and then they're going to come back, be right before the next election, and start giving you all these trigger symbols and whatever this coded slave language to get you all excited about the next election. That's what they do. That's the pattern. Okay, and so I would just say do your thing. Support who you want. Just don't let it get too serious. It's like if I used to have this cousin. He was my craziest relative. He was such a weirdo. And we used to play when we were little, we would go to grandma's house and we would play games like kids play games. We would start playing checkers. He wasn't very smart either. And I guess I was kind of smart. So we start playing checkers. I start winning because I'm smart and he just wasn't. And then every time he would get so mad that he was losing the game. He would flip the board over, fuck this, and throw the board across the room. And one time he pulled out a butcher knife on my other cousin because he lost the game. We were playing football or something. And I was like, dude, why are you pulling out a knife on your relative because you lost the football game or because you can't play checkers? And the dumbest part of it was he would always start every fight and he could not fight. That's what the hilarious thing was. I was like, and even as an 8-year-old, I was like, this is not logical. You keep starting fights, but you keep getting your ass kicked. If you're gonna start fights, it seems like you would be a good fighter. Like I would, if like that would make more sense to me. But you're asking for more of an ass whooping. That's just a little side note. I don't hope my cousin doesn't see this because he's still crazy. But the funny thing was, it didn't make any sense, and he was taking it too seriously. And some of y'all get like that. Some of y'all get like that over these elections. You get to the point where you get to hollering and screaming and cussing out your own relatives and making them feel bad and shaming them and attacking them and really doing the exact same thing that your oppressors have always done. Your oppressors do that. They remember there's terms like voter intimidation or voter suppression. These are terms that have been used for a very long time, and these are terms that apply if you are pressuring someone else or making them feel bad and attacking them because they're doing something different from what you're doing. And I don't think that's appropriate. And that's very anti freedom. And I would almost argue that it's anti black. You know, oppression is oppression, whether it's coming from a slave master or an overseer. Right? So in politics, we kind of have these overseers who work on behalf of the master to do things that the master can't do. Like, so for example, when I remember when Cornel West, I knew Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson very well. I love those guys. They were kind of a little bit almost like mentors to me to some extent, and I remember when they were the best of buddies. They were such good friends, and I admired them both, and I got to know them both, and I still know them both. I just haven't talked to them in a few years. And then the Obama presidency came along, and that became a big divide. I remember Michael. One minute Michael was pro-Obama, then he became very anti-Obama, then he became very pro-Obama again. I didn't know what was going on with that. I was very confused by that. And Cornell was also pro-Obama. You know, he sat with Barack in a room with David Axelrod, Jesse Jackson Jr., and a few other people to figure out how to get black people to support him. And they figured it out, and the formula worked. Everybody fell in love with him, and he won the election. Well, Cornell was disappointed. Cornell felt that Obama was not doing as much for the black community as he, and also for poor people that as he hoped that he would. So Cornell became a critic of Obama, and Dyson was a big supporter of Obama. Well, the next thing that was interesting to me was I remember being very saddened by the fact that those two stopped being friends over the Obama presidency. And what was really specifically appalling to me and very sad was that the Obama administration, I think, felt that they could not directly respond to Cornel West because he's kind of beneath him. And the way politics kind of works is you don't really talk to people that are beneath you. So what they did was they kind of sent Dyson as kind of a weaponized adversary, right? So you can't do the fight, but you get somebody to fight on your behalf. So what they did was they gave him this spread in one of the liberal magazines. I forgot which one it was, Slate magazine, I think, where they let him write like a 10,000 word article pretty much just dismantling the credibility of Cornel West, just really going above and beyond to the point where it became more than just saying I disagree with you. It got to the point of saying you're irrelevant. You're just a worthless human being, and I feel like that's inappropriate. I think that is really the weaponization of black people against other black people, and it's also a type of tactic used by colonizers all throughout the world. That's what you do if you want to conquer an area, and this has happened anywhere. Look up the struggle between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Look up what happened with the a revolution in Iran in the 1970s. Go to a lot of countries, and you will find these unbelievable civil wars where the colonizer, like a puppet master, will take one side and pit them against the other, so that you're so busy fighting each other that you don't actually fight the system that's controlling the both of you. And the reason this tactic tends to work is because most people don't spend time doing what we do every single morning, which is focusing on consciousness. Consciousness is leveling up. Consciousness is when you rise above the situation you're in. Consciousness is when you can see the forest and you're not distracted by the trees. Consciousness is where you're about to fight your brother and you're like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Wait, hold on, let's stop for a minute. Let's think about this. Hold on, how's this gonna work? I'm fighting with my wife, and I use consciousness all the time. To stay married, you got to use consciousness. And so my wife, and I think it confuses my wife because sometimes we'll be in the middle of a heated debate that is bordering on becoming an argument, and then just like that, I might snap out of it and be completely fine with whatever. I won't be angry anymore. And she doesn't know where that's coming from. Like, where did your anger go? Well, it's because I had a moment of consciousness. I thought about it and I realized that in 5 years, I'm really not even going to remember this argument. I'm not going to care about this issue in 5 years, but I am going to know if I divorce my wife. I am going to remember that. And so I'm letting it go because it's tiny. I'm letting go of the small stuff. Up in here, it's big things popping, little things stopping. Shout out to Ti, right? Basically, consciousness is when you can see the bigger picture. That's what. Do you follow what I'm saying? Following looking at the bigger picture is really how you understand systems. That's how you fight systematic racism. It's how you deal with capitalism. It's how you deal with oppression. You have to be able to think on a higher dimensional level. This is why one of the reasons that in our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program in the Black Business School, one thing that we do is we train parents on how to have what we call sturdy children. Sturdy is spelled STE RDY. And this is how you build black millionaires. This is not how you get black jobs. So if you're looking to get a job, you need to go talk to the people that'll show you how to fill out an application. That's not what we teach you how to do. It's fine. I no disrespect, but we want kids up here. We don't want them just in the struggle. We want them above the struggle. You understand? So I don't want you fighting on the ground. I want you in an airplane flying above the ground. Okay. And so STURDY stands for systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation. This is what builds black millionaires. So you can write this down if you want to. Systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation. This is how millionaires and billionaires think. What does that mean? Well, systems means that you think about things in a systematic way. Your financial consciousness is at such a level that you're not really looking at things in sort of this idiosyncratic kind of way, like sort of one-offs. Like how do I get this job or how do I make a couple of dollars? You're thinking about systems, right? So let me give an example of how a systematic thinker makes money versus how we're trained to make money. The way we're trained to make money is we're trained to sell time for money. We're trained to do sort of time-based math where we say, if I make $40 an hour and I work 10 hours, I make how much money? How much money do I make? If I make $40 an hour and I work 10 hours, how much money am I going to make? Type it in the chat. How much money am I going to make that day? $400 exactly. So that means if I want to make more money, then what does that mean? I got to sell more time typically, right? I can work 80 hours and get $800, 1,000 hours and get 1,000 times 40, which I guess what's that? $40,000, whatever. Okay. Well, a person that thinks in terms of systems doesn't really sell time for money because time is a limited commodity. Time is very limited for you, and money is fleeting. Money can be replaced. So actually, a systematic thinker might say, instead of me selling time for money, so instead of me saying that $40 an hour times 10 hours is going to get me $400, I might say sell units of a product, and let's say my product is $10 a piece. Okay, so if I want to make $400, I just have to sell 40 units of my $10 product. And then I can still make the same $400 you made, but I didn't sell any time to do it. I could do that in literally half a second if I have a system that's strong enough. If I have some digital system that allows me to sell products and make money, then I can make $400 in seconds, not in time is literally irrelevant. Also, a systematic thinker, which is what our children can be trained to do, is a person that understands, and this actually relates to another part of the model, but basically a systematic thinker might think in terms of just building some sort of organization where you have partners and team members and people that report to you, maybe people that you hire, you buy time from them, and you develop a system that allows you to make money. Apple makes its money because it has a really amazing system. That's why they're able to make probably, I'm going to guess 40, 50, $60 million a day. Maybe it's more than that or less than that. I haven't done the math. The T stands for technology. I think that if our kids understand technology, that is one thing that allows you to scale. The wealth right now that's being created in this country is being created mostly by the technologists. It's the people in Silicon Valley, the people who took computer science classes, stuff like that. A lot of you have kids that are really, really good at science that are going to become engineers or doctors or whatever. And I think all of that is fine, but I also encourage you to really, really open their minds to all the things that they can do as entrepreneurs who understand technology, because that gives them this lottery ticket that might actually cash in and turn into $1 billion. Okay. Now, a job is not going to turn into $1 billion job 9 times out of 10, but you can become $100 million, $1 billion entrepreneur. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that you'll never hear about who make $200,000 a month. That is quite doable if a child is trained on these skills at an early age and understands the process. Number three, entrepreneurship. This is that third part. Again, rather than black jobs, I think black jobs are fine. I'm more into black wealth. I'm more into black owned. One thing about when the politics issue comes up, I simply put up that chart that shows you that black wealth we've been in the lowest rungs of wealth for the last 50 or so years or more. And I say, show me which Democrat or which Republican has changed our ranking in the wealth hierarchy. There is no Democrat that's done it. There is no Republican that's done it. So really, if you really want to talk about how people rise up, how communities rise up, economically speaking, and change their position in the ranking, it's because they produce entrepreneurs that can build those businesses that are really going to scale and really blow up and kick ass and take names. If you do that, then you have that person that comes into the hood. They can create 100,000 jobs or whatever. That those are the people that really move the needle. If you build a university, if you have entrepreneurs in the university who go out and make $1 billion, then they can come back and write a check for 50 million to build a gymnasium or to build a science lab or whatever. Employees can't really do that. And so if you look at the institutions that have the biggest endowments, they tend to produce the most powerful, most impactful entrepreneurs. So if we produce an army of black entrepreneurs, not only are we talking about a major move in terms of wealth, but you're talking about a major move in terms of freedom. You're also talking about a major move in terms of sovereignty, because if you have black entrepreneurs that have those $1 billion endowments, they can then come in and they can fund the black owned schools. Because I hope that you hear me when I'm saying to you that one of the biggest problems with the misguided mind of the Negro in America is that we hand our children over to other people to educate them. Our children are our $1 trillion asset, and we give that $1 trillion asset away when we hand over their brains. Their minds and their brains shape their values. Their minds and their brains determine what they're going to spend time working on. Their minds and their brains determine what matters to them. Their minds and their brains determine how they're going to use their power when they get it. Their minds and their brains decide how, which direction they're going to point their energy. So you got to understand, pay attention now. You could show me a lot of black politicians and I'm not really impressed. But because their minds are set in such a way where they say, when I get the power, I got to go serve everybody. Or when I get the power, I'm not doing anything specifically for black people, because doing something specifically for black people is dangerous, inappropriate. It's not going to be beneficial to me. However, you go and you take another person like, say, a Jaylen Brown and with the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown at the Boston Celtics is the highest paid player in the NBA, or at least he was for a while. I guess someone else got a bigger contract. But Jaylen Brown, when he signed that $400 million contract, first thing he said is, I want to build a Black Wall Street. When he said that, when I heard him say that, I said, somebody educated this black man. Somebody educated him. He was not educated by the public school system. He might have went to school. I'm not saying he didn't go to school, but somebody was educating him after school, if you understand what I'm saying. Somebody got to this kid and said, when you get the power, this is what your value system's going to be. So here's the thing. It's not about what skills they taught him. Somebody taught him how to play basketball, but we've had thousands of great basketball players. And black people, we just mass produce basketball players. No, somebody didn't just educate him. They shaped his value system. That's the thing. That's the power of education. It's not just about learning how to do something. It's where also you learn why you're doing it and who you're doing it for and who's going to receive the benefits of that labor. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Jaylen Brown, they're looking at him like, how the hell did this Negro get through the system? What happened here? We control all the Negroes. Like, what's going on? Who hacked this kid's brain to make him think that actually serving black people is more important than serving us? So now you know why Jaylen Brown is not on the Olympic basketball team, because Jaylen Brown instantaneously, when he advocated an allegiance, a true respect, a true consideration for black people, he became the most dangerous player in the NBA next to Kyrie Irving. Because there's no reason Kyrie and Jaylen should not be on that Olympic team. Because if they were on that team, I bet you they wouldn't almost got beat by South Sudan. Okay, did y'all see that? They made fun of South Sudan and talked about how the players aren't that tall and just some ignorant, goofy stuff. And South Sudan came in and whooped that ass. They lost by 1 point on a last second shot. That's how close that game was. So yeah. So they know who was supposed to be on that team. But you also need to know why he wasn't on the team. It's because America is not a friend to the black man, to the black woman, nor is it a friend to the black family or the black community. The systematic structure of this country was not built on strong black families and strong black communities. It was built on black servitude. It was built on you playing your position. It was built on you doing your black job and not trying to go take the white job, or not trying to get into black owned and black wealth and all that talk. Like, wait, hold, you ain't supposed to be driving the bus. You're not supposed to own the bus. You're not supposed to build the bus. You're supposed to ride in the back with the other Negroes. That's when you're supposed to be. So if you want to understand why I just don't care, I can't bring myself to care about all these elections, it's because that ain't got nothing to do with making you more powerful. It doesn't. It's another distraction. It's taking energy that we should be spending on other things and applying the energy toward putting another person who is going to ignore us into power. And no disrespect to those of you who are excited about Kamala. If you want to know my opinion, I think she's a smart lady. I think it's really interesting. I could criticize both candidates. Kamala's got an interesting track record. Trump, his is really interesting because he's been around for a while and he's been Trump for a long time. But then at the same time, I have admiration for them both. I think Kamala's well spoken, well educated. She knows how to, she's a better politician. She understands the systems a little bit better, I think, than the Trump would. And Trump, though, has been a great, brilliant real estate guy. He's a really good businessman. I know people want to act like he's just stupid and ridiculously bad, but that's the politics of it all. No, if you study the Trump family, you'll understand that their power play goes back 100 years. And what I just really want from you is not to admire any of these people or put them on a pedestal. I want you to realize that you can do what they do. So when I see a Jaylen Brown, I'm like, that was great. Somebody had a power play. Somebody told that kid who he was when he was very young and said, we're going to go ahead and plant this seed in you so that just in case you become some wealthy, famous black man, you're going to know what your priorities are. We're going to talk about what should matter to you. Because I was built kind of the same way. I had certain seeds planted in me that said if I become this PhD who's known around the world, I'm not going to waste my time doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter for people who are disconnected from my community. No, I'm going to bring it back home. And this is not uncommon. This is done around the world for independent nations that want to become strong. This is what the Chinese did. The Chinese did the same thing. The Chinese started rating their citizens based on what are you doing for China? You are from the world. You went to another country and you became successful at what you do. But what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? That ain't got nothing. You going off to the United States and working at MIT means nothing for China unless you're helping China. So they literally rate their citizens based on what are you pouring into China? What are you putting back into the bucket? Because the only thing that determines the value of this community is what's in the bucket. Are you contributing or are you not? We're not going to give you credit for having resources. We're going to give you credit for donating and investing resources. That's what you get credit for. You don't get credit for what you could do. You get credit for what you actually do. So there are people who have far less than some of these prominent Negroes on TV, these entertainers, these politicians, whatever. There are people I know they have far less resources than any of these people you'll see on TV, but their contribution is far greater because they're doing things specifically for the black community. Like that mother who's raising a bunch of black boys and black girls in her house, she's doing something specifically for the black community because she's raising those boys right so they'll grow up and become good husbands and not gangster serial killers, and raising the girls right so they'll go up and become great wives and mothers and leaders instead of going out and doing something silly in the world that harms people. Do you understand? So that's what's going to make the difference. So anyway, let me keep going. So let me finish the study model. I get into stuff and then I lose track. Thank you, Troy Williams, for getting me back in on point. All right, so STARDY stands for Systems, Technology, Entrepreneurship, and the R and the D stands for relationships and delegation. The Y just stands for youth. I just put that on there so it could be a full word because sturdy sounds better than stirred. But relationships means that I think that relationship management and relationship building should be taught to children at an early age. If I built a school tomorrow, if somebody gave me $100 million and said, we want you to build a school for black people, I would literally have relationship management as like one of the core skills that children are trained on so they can learn things like conflict resolution, learning things like how to pick the right friends, how to pick the right spouse, how to get along with the people that matter to you, how to get along with your kids. There's a science to all this. There's science to all this, and a lot of us mess these things up because we don't take the time to study the science. So, but that's why we have the Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business Schools, because I said, okay, let's take the science of relationship management and let's help people apply this to their families. Because if your family stays together, you're going to be more wealthy than if your family breaks apart. That's a fact. If your family stays together, you're going to be safer than you are if your family breaks apart. That's a fact. If your family stays together, you're going to be better off mentally, physically, and your mental, physical health, all that stuff's going to be better than if your family breaks to pieces. A broken family is very traumatic, and a lot of us ignore the trauma because we're used to black people being so tough that we can just go through anything and it's okay, but it's not okay. It's not okay that your mother was not there when you were growing up. It is not okay if your father was not there for you when you were growing up. It is not okay that you got traumatized by your own sibling. It's not okay if you got molested by your uncle. It's not okay if you kept getting bullied by your cousin. It's not okay if you have cousins and relatives that are cussing you out because you voted for Trump or you voted for Biden or whatever. That's none of that is okay. None of that is appropriate. None of that is right. It's not okay that you started a great business with your friend and y'all started fighting and now the business is dead because y'all couldn't resolve the issue. Lots of wealth gets lost that way. I use like rock groups and stuff as an example. You look at New Edition, they had great conflict resolution skill. One guy interviewed on the AOL Black Voices show one time was Michael Bivins. And Michael Bivins, I'm going to speculate. I don't know all the members of New Edition. One of them was in this class, and I don't know if he's here today, the tall one, Ronnie, and he's a very nice guy. But the other ones, I don't know the story behind it, but I know Bobby Brown was interesting. He was kind of a wild guy. And what I really admire is the way somebody in that group, and I bet it was Michael Bivins because he seems like a leader. When I met him, he seemed like a real leadership prone kind of person. But somebody got them to resolve their conflicts. Somebody got them to realize that they were better together than they were trying to all be solo. Because you remember, they've gone in all different directions. I think Johnny was solo, Ralph was solo, Bobby was solo, and then you have the other three, Bell Biv DeVoe, led by Michael Bivins again, right? Who actually ended up being more successful than any of these more talented artists. Because everybody knows Bell Biv DeVoe could not sing like Johnny Gill. They couldn't perform like Bobby Brown. They couldn't sing like Ralph Transvant, but they became really successful. Why? Well, because somebody said we better work together because we can't do this by ourselves. None of those guys in Bell Biv DeVoe. Let's tell me the truth. Some of y'all, if you're young, you may not remember this, but I want you to go back and look at it, look it up. But tell me if you remember this. None of those guys in Bell Biv DeVoe were all that talented. And if Ron, if you're in the class, brother, I'm not making fun of you. I'm this is really a compliment, so please don't get offended. But seriously, they weren't as talented as I mean, but then again, it's not a knock against them. I mean, Johnny Gill could sing his voice was amazing. Ralph Tresvant, same thing. So what I'm saying to you is that I want you to really look at these real life examples to understand the economic benefits that come with putting your ego to the side and working together and seeing the bigger picture. It took consciousness for this to happen. It doesn't happen by accident typically. There are so many other groups from 3 6 Mafia to the Ghetto Boys to a lot of groups that they could be touring and making millions of dollars right now, but they can't tour because they can't get along. Outcast has been, Outcast could have made at least $100 million by now. But for whatever reason, Andre and Big Boy are not on the same page. So when you can't collaborate, you're losing money. You're giving wealth away when you can't collaborate. So what I would encourage you to do is learn the skills of a collaborative person. Learn those skills. I'm not a master at it. Because I don't collaborate as much as I should. I'd like to, but trauma gets in the way. It affects all of us. I'm a heavily traumatized person. So if you ever see Boyce acting a fool or Boyce messing up, just know that Boyce's trauma is kicking in because I was high on the trauma scale and I'm trying to work through that. Ain't none of us got this figured out. What matters in my view is just doing your best to try to keep growing. You got to keep growing. They say that when you stop growing, you start dying. And in some areas, our community's dying because people don't want to grow. You got what Dr. Claude Anderson refers to as need to grows. He calls them need to grows. I don't want to be a need to grow. I want to learn how to be a collaborative person, how to be a helpful teammate. Like when I think about family and I think about what my role is as a father, I'm thinking, how can I be the person that when I come in the room, everybody's day gets better? How can I be the person that's going to have a good answer for you for a question or something motivational to say, something that's going to propel you forward in a direction that you want to go, that's going to help you stay on the path? Like, how can I be that person? And so to some extent, maybe I decided it's fun to kind of be like a cheerleader because kids need confidence, right? So I love cheering on the kids and saying, you're great at this. You can be amazing at this. Oh my God, keep practicing. You got this. And it's a little bit weird, a little bit fanatical, but that's my own little way of trying to be a good teammate. What I don't want to be is that father who traumatizes everybody and harms other people and causes people to have to spend $20,000 in therapy because they're overcoming the horrible things that their father did. And to me, that when that happens, that's due to a lack of consciousness on the part of the father. That's when the father is not aware of the impact of his behavior, the impact of his actions. And I think a lot of that can come from the fact that you never healed. So a lot of times the reason healing is very important is because what you'll find is that when you go to healing and therapy and all that, you'll become much more aware, self-aware, you'll become aware of your environment. And what's happening is your consciousness is rising up. Okay. And this will translate to your economics, I promise you, because you'll see the bigger picture. And then the hard part of that though is that because everybody else isn't doing it, you're going to end up looking like a weirdo because you're going to see things other people won't see. That's why I think it's very important to add in as part of your consciousness to get around other conscious people because they're going to get it. You can say, I was thinking the other day that it seems like we always do this, but it always turns into that. And they'll go, yeah, you're right. I thought about the same thing. You want people like that. You don't want people that are going to be like, what are you talking about? Just pass the potato chips, Igga. Give me the show's coming on. Where's the beer at? Like that's irritating. I don't enjoy that, right? So anyway, let me. Yeah, I did say we were going to answer some questions. Let me finish up. So sturdy stood for systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation. Delegation is an important part of systematic thinking. What you'll find is that when you go on that journey toward wealth. First thing they teach you is how to work hard. I think black people were very good at working hard. We work harder than everybody else. But then eventually you realize you can't work any harder. You're working 40 hours a week, then 50, then 60, then 70, then 80, especially if you're an entrepreneur. But then you realize that you hit your peak. You can't go further without it significantly diminishing your quality of life. So how about as a fundamental skill early in life, we teach children about delegation. Delegation is just teamwork. Delegation is realizing that you can't be good at everything. You can't be in all places at once. You can't do everything all the time for everybody. And so what you do is you get teammates and you have good relationships with the teammates and you develop systems that allow you to pass tasks on so that you don't have to try to do everything yourself. Because some of y'all start businesses and you end up being the CEO, the marketing director, the janitor and the secretary, right, all at once, and that's hard to do. I've seen really talented people who could do amazing things, who just lack the ability to delegate and to have teamwork. I will say, for example, I'll say it. Umar Johnson. Umar Johnson is a brilliant speaker, but I think that he's missed a lot of his potential because Umar Johnson doesn't delegate very well. He doesn't collaborate very well. And a lot of that is driven by, in my view, ego. Right? If you want to be the king of everything all the time and dominate other people in a significant way, then you're not really going to be very good to collaborate with. Kanye West had that same problem when I met with him, and Donald Trump seems to have that problem a little bit, even though he does have a bigger team. I don't know exactly the intricacies of his team, but a lot of it is about attitude. It's about being able to have respect for other people, to empathize. Empathy is a word that is used a lot by Dr. Nicole Price. She just did a TED talk, a brilliant TED talk in at Morehouse. And Nicole and I, we're not on the same page on a lot of political issues, but I respect her immensely because when she talks about empathy, it's really something worth looking into. If you understand empathy and you use it in a positive way, because it's power. You could manipulate people with it if you want to, but if you are using it in a good way, it really helps you get a whole lot more stuff done because you kind of learn just these basic ideas like the whole world, everything and about you. You learn how to see the world from other people's perspective. Empathy would allow a Trump supporter to sit down with a Harris supporter and talk to each other, which does not happen in America. So America, as Dr. Price says, and I agree with her, we need an empathy revolution. I really I get it if you don't like somebody else's ideas, but I think you're probably smarter if you take the time to try to understand them than you are by trying to lecture them and make them like you, because it ain't gonna work anyway. You sit and argue with people that are already stuck in their way of thinking. It's not You're not gonna make any progress. You're just gonna get stressed out. So why not just listen? Let them rail, and then after they feel heard, what will happen is they're gonna start listening to you. As Pastor Kevin Cosby used to say, he says, "Before you correct, you must connect." And that's true for children, it's true for people, it's true for life, it's true in business, it's true in politics, it's true in everything. So connect, All right. So I'm gonna answer a few more questions. Just a quick reminder, don't forget the All Black National Convention is going to be October 25th through the 27th. So if you'd like to join us in Chicago for the number one gathering of intelligent Black people on the planet, it is not corporate sponsored, it is not sponsored by the Democrat or the Republican parties. We don't do none of that stuff. You can be Democrat, you're welcome. If you are Republican, you are welcome. If you're independent, you're welcome. If you don't vote, you are welcome. All that we ask is that you are Black first. Be one, Black first. first, that means that you agree with us that that serving our community and doing things for our people is the most important thing that we can do. And again, if you agree with that, then I don't care. I don't care if you're married to a white guy or a white woman. Like I don't know, there's people that come, they bring their little white spouse, and I'm like, hey, we can use all hands on deck, and it's totally fine. So it's amazing. We have experts of all backgrounds that are going to be there, family members, excellent parents like Dr. Mary Stoddard, who was raised as she was a sharecropper growing up, has 17 brothers and sisters in deep poverty. All 17 of them graduated from college. And then also she raised 5 children with her husband, Dr. Marcus Stoddard, and all 5 of her children have PhDs or MDs, all 5 of them, every single one of them. Now, I hope you agree with me that these are the people we need to learn from. When we study parenting, I don't want to read some book written by some white dude at Harvard. I want to learn from Dr. Stoddard. I want to learn, okay, how do you raise kids like that? How do you raise excellent black children in a world where we're taught that black excellence doesn't exist or that black people just can't do it? So long story short, these are the types of people that we bring in that we look for. Another brother, Cody Ransom. I met Cody because he was doing tours on Black Wall Street, and I invited Cody to the convention. Cody he understands the real story behind Black Wall Street at a level that is not in any movie or any book anywhere. Like it's absolutely amazing when he breaks down the whole Black Wall Street situation, what happened during, after, all the stuff that's not really included in the reports. So Cody is another person that we brought into the Black Business School because he just gets it. Asada Moore, a sister, she runs something called the Black Math Genius Program. She works with Freddie Taylor, who runs Urban Intellectuals, and Freddie is very fanatical about Black history and making sure that we know our history and know who we are. And he's taught that to millions of our people. And then Asada Moore has been for 30 years teaching Black children how to be outstanding in mathematics. She takes them to the highest levels. She sets the highest standards. She does not believe that because you are Black, that somehow you're supposed to be in the slow kids class. Because if you go to a lot of these schools, tell me if you've seen this. If you go to a lot of these public schools, you go into the class of the slow kids or the kids that are diagnosed with some sort of being mentally slow or whatever. It ends up being like full of Black kids. That's what they do. They curse you with low expectations. I mean, I get it. If you have a deficiency, fine, but your deficiency is not going to be helped if I enable the deficiency. If I tell you to give up on life and I tell you to not even try anymore. I had a cousin that was in one of those slow classes, and I remember I asked him, I said, well, what do you do at school all day? He said, we just sit in the room and the lady reads to us. So he graduated high school and couldn't even read because they diagnosed him in a certain way when he was 7 years old. But he could do everything else. He was able to get girls pregnant, play video games, play basketball, and do all these other things. But yet somehow you can't even learn how to read. So this is what they're doing to our kids. They're killing the community because these young men and young women are the ones who are going to grow up and give birth to babies and supposedly provide with your daughters and your sons and it's not acceptable. How about that? It's not acceptable. So, if you want to join the convention, feel free to go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I guarantee you it'll change your life. You're going to meet people there that you've never met before. And that's what we're doing. And we're getting it done. And we're making it happen. All right. So, anyway, let me answer a couple more questions in the Q&A section. If you want to come into the private Zoom, I'm only looking at the questions that are inside the Zoom. So if you want to join the private Zoom tomorrow and you're listening, say on YouTube or something like that, just text the word morning to 87948. If you text morning to 87948, I will send you an invitation tomorrow and you can join us inside the private Zoom tomorrow morning. All right, so let's see here. Gail says, can you explain how to start the $5 a day plan? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Great question. Okay, first thing is the $5 a day plan is at blackwealthmasterplan.com. It's totally free. Blackwealthmasterplan.com. Here's how the $5 a day plan works, and then here's how you implement it. The $5 a day plan basically says that any person of any income level who can find a way to invest $5 a day, which is actually less than the cost cost of a McDonald's value meal. It's less than the cost of a Popeye's chicken value meal. If you can invest $5 a day, then after even if you randomly pick stocks in the S&P 500, after 10 years, based on history, you can't predict the stock market, but based on history, you would have after 10 years roughly $29,000 in liquid wealth. After 20 years, you'd have roughly $100,000 in liquid wealth. After 30 years, roughly a quarter million. After 40 years, you have roughly 750,000. This solves the black wealth problem. This solves the problem for any family that has just consistency. Buy your stocks and don't sell them. How do you implement it? Very easy. You can open up an app like on Robinhood, Acorns, anywhere else, and then have it automatically deposit about, let's say, $5 a day, which would be $150 a month. You can do it monthly or you can do it weekly. It's up to you. You don't have to do it daily. I call it $5 a day because that's the title. But really, it could be $5 a day was also $35 a week or $150 a month, one of those two. So if you put in automatically deposit $150 a month into your account and then have that 150 automatically purchase uh, any of a wide range of ETFs. The ones that I refer people to first are VOO, Victor Oscar Oscar, or SPY, Sierra Papa Yankee, Sierra Papa Yankee, SPY, or VOO, Victor Oscar Oscar. If you do that consistently and you just don't sell and you do your 150 a month, just like you do your car note, just like you do your cell phone bill, just like you do every other bill that you have, then over time you will build wealth. After a decade, you won't be in poverty anymore because there's nobody who has $20,000 or $30,000 liquid in an account that can say that they're poor anymore. So this solves the poverty problem, and it solves it in a way that is so easy that even a monkey can do it. Burton Malkiel in 1971 taught monkeys to invest by having them do very simple things like that, and the monkeys had more money than working class people. And so don't think investing is complex or hard. It's much easier than you think. And the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to investing is to not do it at all. Now, for those of you that get it, for those of you that have it, then I don't think 150 a month is appropriate. 150 a month is the bare minimum. That's the number I picked for all the Negro naysayers I had to deal with. Negro naysayers are people who find a problem with every solution. So I had lots of Negro naysayers who'd say, black people can't afford to invest. You being uppity telling black people to invest. Investing's for white people. Investing's for rich people. Investing's for people who got college degrees. I said, okay, all right. So let's start with $5 a day. I said, I literally would ask them, I said, can black people afford chicken? And when I asked them, can black people afford chicken? You can't say no because we single-handedly support half the chicken in the Popeyes wouldn't exist if it wasn't for black people. So you can't. So basically, I said, okay, let's do $5 a day. Let's see what happens if you do that, the bare minimum. And that's what you get. That's how you can build wealth, even at that low level. But truth be told, think about it. I'm talking about 150 a month. A lot of y'all got car notes that are $700-800 a month. So what if you cared as much about your legacy, and what if you cared as much about your family's wealth and your family's future as you care about that car in your driveway that's going to be worthless in 5 or 6 years? What if you cared as much about your children as you care about paying the cell phone bill every month? Seriously, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just giving you facts. Well, if that's the case, then you wouldn't be doing 150 a month. You'd be doing 600 a month. 4x that, the amount that people spend on their car note. You do 600 a month, then after 10 years, based on history, you're not talking about $29,000. You're talking about 120,000. After 20 years, you're not talking about 100,000. You're closing at 350, 400,000. After 30 years, you're not talking about a quarter million anymore. You're talking about $1 million. You got a million liquid, just for one short, brief sacrifice of less than a generation. And then if you protect those assets properly and going into the next generation, then your family doesn't have any economic problems at all. Okay. It's very easy to solve, but you just have to do it. And you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself and take action. Okay. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. Okay, Jamila, and by the way, I do have a stock market investing class if you want to take a look. It's theblackstockmarketprogram.com, THE. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. The first month is free. All right, don't forget the THE. All right, Jamila Stone says, is a multi-asset income a mutual fund? In your opinion, is a multi-asset income a mutual fund? I'm not sure I understand that question, Jamila. A multi-asset income, a mutual fund? No, a mutual fund is basically where you buy one asset and it represents a collection of stocks. So it's almost like I have a multivitamin here, and if I take that one vitamin, it's got a lot of nutrients in it. I don't have to take independent pills to get every single thing. The multivitamin has everything in it. So a mutual fund has a bunch of different stocks in there. So you're getting a piece of a bunch of different industries all with one share. Okay. Just like a multivitamin. Okay. Now, by the way, those ticker symbols were VOO and SPY. Somebody type that in the chat. If anybody asks and they say, "Can you repeat that? Can you, if you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it. I don't want to trigger my ADHD." In your opinion, is it worth investing to build wealth? Yes, mutual funds are a great way to get started, and it makes it very easy. Desmond's asking, "What do you think about Krispy Kreme?" I don't have stocks in front of me, Desmond, so I can't do that. We do stock market Tuesdays, and that's when I can look up stocks and stuff like that. But right now I don't have anything in front of me, so I can't really analyze Krispy Kreme. I don't know how that company's doing right now. How do I contact LeVar Scott's team? I'm not sure, but if you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, support@theblackbusinessschool.com, they can help you, and they can help you with pretty much anything you want to do with your family in the Black Business School. So that's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Has Mr. Cody come to the platform before? Yes, Barbara, he has. He was here last year, and we invited him back again this year. And I'm going to hopefully try to get him to the All Black National Convention because when he tells you about Black Wall Street, you'll realize no matter even if you think you know the story, you really don't know the story. That's why I reached out to partner with Cody because I went to Tulsa to visit some friends and family, and he gave just this tour, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This guy, he knows so much stuff. Is mobile notary still available? I don't know if it's open right now, Kendrick, I'm sorry. But email support@theblackbusinessschool.com and you can ask them. Andre Hatchett is our partner in the mobile notary program. He teaches people how to basically become mobile notaries. I needed one yesterday. I needed documents signed, and a lady came to the house and I signed the documents and she got her money and left after about 20 minutes. Let's see. What's the lady's name who raised successful kids? Her name's Dr. Mary Stoddard, Stoddard. She lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's see. David Hawkins, Map of Consciousness, friendly reminder. Is that a book? The David Hawkins Map of Consciousness book? I don't. Um, I'll write it down. I'll write it down. All right. And by the way, if you ask, I can't answer questions about individual stocks or anything just because I don't have any information in front of me to look at it. So we can do that though during Stock Market Tuesdays. Jamila, which annuity calculator would you recommend? They all kind of work the same, Jamila. If you look up annuity calculator, it's out there. And basically with annuities, you have formulas where you can either pull out the annuity amount, the amount that will be required to either build a certain amount in the future, or you have what they call present value of annuity calculators. And annuity calculators in various forms mathematically, that's how you value any financial asset. You can value a share of stock with an annuity calculator. You can value an asteroid with a with a an annuity calculator. Let's see, Dave Joseph. Every 4 years, Black people, include intelligent Black people, vote for the better master. Why? Because I think that we habits. I think we just kind of do what other people did. We follow people even if what they're doing doesn't make sense. So it's like, well, my grandma voted for so and so, so I'm going to do the same thing. I don't think we think about it that much. Does Dr. Stoddard have parenting books? Asked Deborah. No, she does not have any parenting books, but she gave a great lecture last year, and I believe she's coming this year, bringing I think two or three of her kids with her. And that's why I just looked at the schedule and I saw I have the whole team's working on it. It's really teamwork. It's not me. I can't plan all that by myself. And I saw her on the list, and I also saw her two of her daughters, Dr. Shauna Stoddard and another one of her daughters. They're all doctor. And I just really think this is the model. This is the framework. This is what we should be studying. I don't want to. I don't. I just think it's really interesting, just almost insulting that we really think that white people have to educate us, and they're not even doing a very good job. I'm like, who told us that we can't educate our own kids? When did we decide that? That's the part that's weird to me because I don't know. I mean, that's colonization. That's what that pretty much is. But anyway, let's not get too radical. But y'all get what I'm saying. Kay Collier, please know schools were or are paid a lot of money for kids being labeled. The more labels, the more money. Yep, that is true. That is true. When they get labeled, they get paid for that. And this is when they're claiming to help you. This is when they're claiming to be allies to Black people. And that's not an ally when you are telling a child that they're limited. And what you're kind of doing is you're containing them, you're controlling them. Right. Anyway, we'll go into that later. Let's see. Antonio, would it be a good move to close out a deferred compensation account to sell options using what you teach? I can't give I'm not I can't give investing advice. I don't give investing advice on the platform, Antonio. But I have seen people, take other money from other accounts and purchase some stock and generate a very significant amount of income by selling the options on that stock. I have seen that. I've seen people get HELOCs. I've seen people take a little bit of money out of their savings account. But remember, when you talk about what we do with options, it's not a matter of like it's not a matter of you generating all the income you can generate. You only need a certain amount of income to pay bills. The rest should be invested so it can grow. So I'm not a fan of taking all of my money and using that for my option strategy. I just use enough so that I can generate enough cash every week to be able to pay stuff. And so if you're interested in this sort of thing, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com. That's the program. That's all we talk about is generating income with stocks and options and managing the risk and building the portfolio. So feel free to go to drboyceprime.com, drboyceprime.com. And I see Aisha Verzi's in the chat. Aisha is a great supporter of the school, and she also, if you're interested in things like IULs and or insurance policies, things like that, her phone number is here. I'll just say it out loud. Write it. Feel free to write it down. It's in the chat. Her number is 626-340-5746. 626-340-5746. So Aisha is a great woman, and I respect her a lot. And I think she's going to be at the convention if you want to meet her directly as well. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Paige says, please repeat the stocks and symbols again. I think it was VOO and SPY. Let's see. Heather, have we discussed Warren Buffett's $1 billion plus sale? This is my first day this week. No, I didn't know. What did he sell? What did he sell? I didn't see Buffett sold things. I might have missed that one. All right. Am I buying the CrowdStrike dip? No, I'm not. I think that their issue was more of a fundamental issue, and it's not something I really want to invest in. What if I sell my $70 a week plan, which is 6 years old, to join your Prime program? You've always chosen not to sell. What if I sell my $70 a week plan, which is 6 years old, to join your Prime? I'm not sure what that means exactly, Michael. Feel free to email support@theblackbusinessschool.com if you have something specifically that you'd like to share with us. I didn't follow the question, so my apologies for that. Sean, what is options day and how does it affect the price? You talking about the triple witching hour, when different kinds of options all expire at the same time. Well, the triple witching hour, which happens, I don't know how often it happens. I got to go look that up, but basically it's where a bunch of contracts come into maturity at the same time and a bunch of things happen at once. And that causes a lot of chaos in the options market, which is good because of liquidity and a lot of trading, but it can also create a lot of volatility, which means prices going up and down and going crazy. But I'll look that up and you can ask me about it again, and I'll give you more insight on that. Leslie, VOO is $500 a share. Can we buy fractional shares? Yes, you can. You can buy $5 worth. You don't have to pay $500. Is last night's presentation available? Email support@theblackbusinessschool.com and they can give you a way to get access to it. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Yeah, the Math Genius program, we've merged that with our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program so that the kids will not just have the financial skills, but they have the math skill as well. And just make sure you're also on the email list and stuff like that, or the text list, and we can send that presentation out if you guys want to take a look and see what Miss Asada Moore had to say. She was really, really good. It was really powerful. And if you're not on the text list, just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Or if you live overseas, you can go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. Sean, are you bullish on Tesla with the earnings report being released? No, I'm not. I'm not bullish because I think Elon Musk is a huge risk factor. Because that guy could die any day because he works so hard. And then also I don't know. So if one thing goes wrong, he gets arrested or something, because I just feel like he's so political that I feel like that's going to be dangerous for him. And but then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's smart enough to navigate all that. And I also am not, I'm also skeptical of so first off, he's losing his margins in the EV market. The Chinese are coming in and they're eating his lunch. And then second of all, he's making these massive investments in AI and these big promises, like all the Tesla drivers will be able to use their cars as robo taxis. I just don't believe it. I just don't. I think he tends to exaggerate what he'll be able to do in a certain amount of time, and he's usually wrong. And I just don't feel as confident in him or his companies as I did before. But I think he's going to do some amazing things like with SpaceX and all that. And and I hope he keeps doing those things. I want him to really open that door for us to get to Mars. Maybe AI will do I wonder when we get to where we have artificial general intelligence and AI at a very high level. I wonder if that's going to open the door to us understanding space travel and all that stuff. Like, I think the first things we'll send to Mars will be AI robots. We already have, but I think really advanced ones that can literally build up entire cities and get everything ready for the humans. That to me will be safer than having a bunch of people go out there. All right. So, Sean, I know you can't look at stocks right now, but Mara is down 20% this week. Yeah. Well, that Mara, Mara, that went up because Trump had got, Trump got his ear shot off, and he's pro crypto, and so all the companies related to crypto went up. Now the momentum has shifted. Now that Kamala has really come in hard and raised all this money, and they've stolen the momentum from the Republicans. So I think that is what drove Mara down. So yeah, these stocks are very volatile. So be careful. The convention website, Eureka, it is allblacknationalconvention.com. Somebody type that in the chat for me, please. It's allblacknationalconvention.com. Allblacknationalconvention.com. Can we watch the convention through Zoom? Not this year, Helena. We don't have that set up. If that changes, we'll let you know. But right now, we don't have the digital option. We have the live event only. That's because we have to keep the cost down. These things can be so expensive. AC Salam says the system steals children, especially from widowed single mothers, to use them as guinea pigs and get paid by the pharmaceutical industry. Well, you said it. I didn't. Jessica, I have 3 children. Should I invest using 3 separate accounts or one account and give instructions for distribution in a trust? I would use one account, and I would not tell the kids that it's their money. I would say this is my money and this is the family's money. So remember, when you're building wealth for your kids, you're not just sacrificing for other people. Remember, your kids are a part of you, and you're all on the same team. So enjoy the money too. Like, you have the right to be protected by that wealth until you hand it to them. Do you understand? Like, if I build a house for my children, that doesn't mean I have to live outside. Do you understand? I can live in the house until I pass it over to them. And I don't even have to say, well, I'm building this house just for you. That's, I think, a myth about the whole wealth building process is everybody tends to see it as a sacrifice. Like, I'm going to, really go through a lot of hell to make sure that my kids are doing well. And I applaud you if you feel that way. That's wonderful of you, but you could take care of you too. Because if you and I truly believe we're in the same ecosystem, and we truly believe that we're connected, and we truly believe we're giving to each other, then me taking care of me is also me taking care of you, and you taking care of you is you taking care of me, and then we also take care of each other. Do you understand? It's an ecosystem. So believe me, I have no problem taking care of Boyce. I have no problem making sure Boyce is mentally and physically well. I have no problem building boundaries to make sure Boyce is safe and good and at peace, because I know that when Boyce is at his best, Boyce is gonna really pour back into the space, into the communities in which he operates. I'm really gonna be a great husband because I am a healthy, healed, happy human being. Do you understand? So the same thing is true with wealth. When you build for yourself, you're building for your children. When you build for your children, you're building for yourself. It's supposed to be connected. Who told you that it's separate? Who told you that doing for your kids means you can't do for you? I want you to do for you. I want you to take care of you. I want you to live a nice life. I want you to have nice things. You can have that and still allow the babies to enjoy it as well. Remember, wealth is like a house. You build a beautiful house, you get to live in it, and then when you're done with it, you pass it to someone else. Do you understand? That's what wealth is. So build a house of wealth, and don't worry about who owns it. Right now, you own it. As far as I'm concerned, you own it. If you out here chopping the wood and putting the bricks and everything in place and building that cabin up, that's your house. Your kids can live there with you, so you can all enjoy it together. But it's not going to be their house until you decide that you want to give it to them because you no longer need it. I think that's the best way to look at it, instead of looking at it as like, oh, I'm going to go through hell so I can sacrifice for my kids. F them kids. I'm playing. Let's not go that far. But really, like seriously, no, it ain't. It's not a sacrifice game. I don't, and I also will say my bias is like, I never understood like this idea that kids owe nothing to their parents at all. I don't understand that, mainly because one day you're going to get old and you're going to need help. And I just don't understand the logic of someone who says, I don't, this person who took care of me and changed my diapers and fed me for 20 years, I care nothing about the fact that they are 85 years old in a home somewhere, and lonely and sick and tired and broken and struggling. I just don't get that. I'm not saying that, I'm not judging nobody's situation, but seriously, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have to be that way. I think it's okay for us to be there for each other. All right, so let's keep going. Um, Calvin, okay, a few more questions. Oh, y'all got the questions coming. I'm getting it's a lot of work here. All right, so Calvin says any tax strategies for reducing tax obligation with stock portfolio investments. Well, make sure you know the difference between realized gains and non-realized gains. I would talk to my financial advisor about tax deferred investments as well. Also, just understanding some of those basics of the tax code, like having LLCs and things like that, can make a big difference in terms of minimizing the tax burden. That's where I would start. Oh, Buffett sold Bank of America. Oh, that's right. I did see that. Um, I don't make much of it, honestly. There's not much to say about that. I think Bank of America is still a solid company though. Let's see here. And you don't know why he sold it. Maybe he announced something, but you don't know why. It doesn't. I don't think he believes the Bank of America is a bad company. I just think he's just made a decision. I've been investing $70 a week. You've always said not to sell for my granddaughter to join the. Oh, got it. Okay, so, um, yeah. Well, you know what, Michael, I would say it. It's really a personal decision. The Prime program. I think if you go to drboyceprime.com, I don't know what the fee is on the page. But I think that what I ask the students to consider is I just say make a simple comparison. Think of it like um, don't think of it like you did with college. With college, you spent a ton of money, and some of you feel like you overspent. You spent more than you actually gained. You gave $200,000, but you didn't get what you wanted. I don't want you to think about anything in the Black Business School that way. I'd like for you to consider with Prime, okay, if the amount that you spend, that you invest to be in the program, is not super exceeded by the amount of income that you're earning from the things that we talk about and the tips I give and the things we share, then I don't want you there. You shouldn't be there. I want it to be a profitable, positive ROI move for you. I want you to not say I did this because I like Boyce, or even just I did this because I want to learn from Boyce, which you will learn. But I also want you to say I made money because of this. I'm doing better because of this. And there are Prime students in here that and y'all can feel free to make comments and talk about your experience. But there are a lot of Prime students in here where I know I've sat down with them, in class, and then sometimes I would do one-on-ones where I can show them specifically, okay, this is how you can have more money on Monday, and it's very easy to do because this is one of those superpowers you get when you have a PhD in this stuff. So there you go, El Haj. Thank you, El Haj. There you go. So there's some comments right there. So feel free to talk to them, and I want them to be honest. I don't want nobody out here lying for me. I'm not here trying to, pull a fast one on anybody. But I really think this is something worth looking at. I don't just think it would be good for a lot of you, but I think it would be great for your children to have this skill at an early age. In fact, if I could go back in time and have this be the only thing I did in high school, it would be that. Okay. So a couple more questions. And the URL is drboyceprime.com if you want to take a look. Dr. Boyce Prime. All right. Leslie Hughes, how much would you say is an adequate amount to have in long-term investments before we start Prime? Um, there's no specific number, Leslie. It kind of just depends on how you want to operate. I personally don't put more than say 25% of my wealth toward my options portfolio. So that might be a benchmark. Let's see. If you have CrowdStrike in your portfolio, would you sell them off? Um, no, I would probably just hold it. I would hold it because it's probably there may be an overreaction to the bad news on CrowdStrike. Let's see, where did we find how to develop an investment group? If you email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, if you're in the Black Stock Market Program or in Prime, that information is in there, but it may be hard to find because we kind of give you a lot of material. So feel free to email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. Okay, I'm gonna answer one more question, then we're gonna have to bounce out for today because we've been here an hour and 15 minutes. Lalani says Buffett sold his Bank of America stock. Why is he trying to free up that money to buy? Okay. That's a good question. I will say this, and this is the last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll bounce out for today. There is a growing group of people that believes that the market could be in for a major, major drop. I just read an article from a guy who became famous because he predicted these drops in the past. That does not mean he's right this time, but he believes that some of these stocks could be cut in half. And so, one thing I would say is that the hard part about those kinds of predictions is that you don't know when it's going to happen. Like there was a guy who knew in 2015, 2016 that the Chinese real estate market was just a big bubble. He knew that they were on some major BS and that the loans that they were making did not have the credit rating that they appeared to have, that they were on thin ice, economically speaking. He predicted this in 2015 and 2016. Everyone told him he was crazy. The prices kept going up. He set up a short position. He got hammered. He lost $1 billion on this short position because the bubble kept on growing. But he ended up being correct. Around 2022, 2023, the crack showed. And you had companies like Evergrande in China have some of the largest bankruptcies in human history. And because everything he said was correct. But he didn't really make a lot of money from his prediction because he predicted it too soon and he invested in the bubble or the bubble bursting too soon. So timing is the really hard part about this. So one way to kind of be prepared without having to time anything, because market timing is really hard to do, is to maybe go in and get some strategies in place that'll protect you just in case that things collapse. That's what put options are for. That's what stop loss orders are for. Things like that. I did a whole training on that, on 7 different ways to protect your portfolio from what I think will be a major decline in the next few months, the next year. It's at stormproofinvesting.com. That's stormproofinvesting.com. All the materials are yours. I did a whole training on it. There's slides and everything else. And so feel free to go to stormproofinvesting.com if you want to check that out. Okay, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a great day. Tomorrow morning, we're going to meet again for class. And if you're not on the text list, text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. And also tonight, if you like Powernomics, as you know, Wednesday night, every Wednesday, we read Dr. Claude Anderson books. And so we're reading his book, The Black History Reader, which I think is really important right now, given that we're dealing with this whole election thing. I think that hearing from the elders like him is really important. So we're going to meet tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested in Powernomics, you want to be a part of that, then feel free to join us tonight. I'll just text, if you're on the original text list, I'll just text you guys a link and you can join us tonight. And next week I may have to cancel because we're doing our trip to Egypt, and I got to get on a plane and go fly and start getting ready for that trip. And again, it's the trip sold out, but we are going to do another one to South Africa. And so around the time of the convention, we'll give you the details on that once I talk to Jay and set that up. All right, have a good day, everybody.